Everything's coming through okay, right, Ancient?
Yep. You're actually clearer than usual.
Yeah, I'm using a MacBook Pro. Holy shit.
Fancy.
Yeah, I think it's just, I have a feeling it's just the thing that has the best audio of all my different equipment. So I'm just gonna try to take the meet. I'm gonna try to do them on there. But my Discord is chugging a little bit, so it was making me nervous. All right, we'll give it another minute, everyone, and then we'll start.
Oh, we have a bingo card now. People are concerned that we're not currently talking, so here's some audio to prove that we are still here, or at least I am. I don't know about David. I think it's you, David. No one can hear you. You might need to restart.
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. I feel like 50% could hear me, 50 couldn't, so that was a little anxiety creating. Okay. So anyway, if everyone can hear me now, I'll restart. So basically, yeah, we try to this is the office hours. We start off talking about what we've been thinking about lately, what we're working on, what might be upcoming, and then we just answer questions for as long as I'm physically able, which is usually a few hours. The thing we've been thinking most about lately is mostly we have this sort of new AI supercomputer that's going, and we're basically training many new image models from scratch every day. And there's probably only been 12 models ever trained of these kinds. And now we're training almost more every week than have ever been trained in the last year. And so basically, we're just learning things every single day that we never knew before. And every few days, we're kind of being mind blown by just stuff that's just sort of totally new. And so basically, that's sort of, I would say, like consuming our minds in a lot of ways right now, because it sort of, there's been a lot of questions, which is sort of what are the real limitations on these technologies, and no one really knows. And now those questions are starting to fall away, and we're starting to see what this stuff is going to be over the next 6 months, and some of it's surprising and changing some of our thoughts on things. So we might start to beta some of the new things in the next week or two. There's sort of two different tracks that we're playing with right now. One is making things faster with bigger batches, and the other thing is making things better. So there's sort of quality, and then there's speed, and like sort of there's quality, and then there's speed in batches. Those are kind of the two different directions that we have projects going in. I would say the speed and batch stuff is a little bit ahead, and then the quality stuff we're having some proof of concepts hopefully landing this week. So basically, we've already have our proof of concepts for the bigger batches, bigger speeds, and we're doing the second version of that this week. And the second and third versions are training. The first versions of the new quality stuff is landing this week, and it probably won't be quite right, but we'll see how it goes. And basically, when something goes well, you kind of just start honing down until it's ready to ship. And then you have ideas, you don't know if they'll work, and then we try them. And so we're pretty sure that the quality stuff will work, but we haven't had the first proof of concept fully working yet. And so in theory, that'll come this week. And then the speed and the batches are already iterating now to second and third iterations. I think the speed and the batches are a little bit more exciting than they sound. You could potentially do things like test and test P, but with batch 64 in half the time. So being able to have like big batches way more fast is cool. At some point, we might actually have a cheaper tier where people can only do small batches of images, and then the existing ones might sort of be more around the bigger batches, and we might just increase the default size at some point. We've been kind of debating what the default grids are going to be, but I think most people want default like 3x3 instead of 2x2. And I think that probably can work inside of Discord. Personally, I prefer something that's more of like, I personally prefer something that's more like 16 or 64 images, but I think as you get to larger grids like 64 images, which is 8x8, it's hard to do it in Discord. So we have a little web interface where you push a button and it pops out and you can select things. But we'll have to see how it kind of feels. Yeah, so when we have the larger grids, like the aspect ratio limitations will fall away with all this new stuff. So you'll be able to do the wider aspect ratios. Um, if somebody, yeah, if people can't hear me, maybe rejoin, restart. Yeah. And let's see. Our goal is to try to, in theory, the things that make things faster and bigger batches can stack with the quality stuff too. So our goal is to both have like 10x higher quality and 10x faster speed and sort of the 10x bigger batches. So we're going to try to just get everything. We'll see how that goes. I think we're still trying to figure out like how there's a bit of a, I don't think we necessarily know what higher quality means yet. We just know that it can be higher quality. And so we're kind of trying to think a little bit about like it's in theory you get things that are like a little bit more coherent and a little bit more like colorful, and you can get more like it's hard to say exactly what will be the most visible. We used to have higher quality modes in the earlier beta that were just slower. So we've kind of know certain tricks we can do that make them higher quality. And as the everything gets faster, we can just put those in by default. So that'll just come in there. And yeah, so that's kind of the next version. And we may or may not release it as two different things, like a fast release and a quality release, and then a fast quality release. We're kind of debating. It might involve a lot of brief releases, but we'll see. Yeah, it's not really clear like what is quote unquote version 4. All we know is that there's new models coming. We will also do a higher, at some point we're going to deploy the upscalers on bigger machines too, and they'll go higher resolution. It's a little less important for us right now, to be honest. I think making things faster and bigger batches and higher quality are probably our bigger focuses. And I think we'll definitely get some better language understanding too. Anyway, let's see. Oh yeah, we're also hoping that we can maybe relax a lot of the blocked words on the new models, because we kind of got all the porn out of it, and so some of the open source stuff out there had sort of some contaminated porn data in it, which makes it really hard to not have the block words. But with our newer stuff, we cleaned the data up a lot more and trained it from scratch. So hopefully that doesn't matter as much now. So we'll see. But we might end up in a world where the filters are relaxed, increasingly relaxed on newer and newer versions, but the old version filters will probably be the same. Let's see. What else is going on? I think we're looking at some new sort of Asia specific products soon. So if there are people who are like Korean, Japanese, in China, like maybe drop your name somewhere and we'll maybe do a thing for people to put their names on things. Because there might be some cool new stuff to test soon using other languages. And we'll kind of see, like, we should probably put a form out for that. Let's see what else. There's going to be the new website. The new website will have like creation on it. I think we went a little complicated, and now we're making the interface a little more simple. And there's going to be some new features that the website will have that are just hard to do in Discord. We're looking at maybe like a remix feature where you can kind of like a variation, but you can change the prompts. And people are really enjoying that so far. And let's see. I'd say there's going to be a lot of other website features, but we'll see sort of what happens. I don't really want to pre-announce too many of them, but there will be a lot of web features that will be pretty cool. And let's see what other things. I feel like I'm missing something. No, it's been new models. The website beta will hopefully roll out to more people soon. I don't know if it's maybe in the next week or two. I don't know, but we had some issues with the infrastructure. We kind of rolled the testing back, and then we'll hopefully come back out again soon. We are still hiring front end developers. Anybody wants to help with front end, please like careers@midjourney.com. And yeah, so some Asia stuff, Asia products, some web stuff, new models. I think those are probably the biggest things right now. Sorry, I can't say exactly what all the Asia stuff is, but I mean, people will figure it out fast. We are going to keep things on Discord. But we're also going to have things on the web. So a lot of people use it in DMs by themselves. And I think if you use MidJourney in DMs by yourself, the web interface will just be a lot better, like much, much, much better. And I think if you use it with other people, Discord will still be better for now, particularly on small servers, of which there's a lot, hundreds of thousands. But over time, there'll be more social stuff on the website too. And so we'll see if people like that more or not. Let's see. What else? I think we really want to do more educational things. I should probably just apologize on this. Like, we know a lot of people want more educational material and we want to do more educational material, but the challenge is that the educational material is very like related to whatever the current model is, and the model stuff is in flux. And so it makes it really hard for us to write something really detailed about how to use the system when we're in the process of replacing the system as quickly as possible. We're going to try to make it in the future so that we'll have like these educational materials that automatically update for versions, but we'll see. Yeah. Some people are kind of asking whether like our new stuff is going to be using any of these sort of open source things coming out. I think the answer to that is just no. We're going to try to probably move away from all the open source stuff pretty strongly. Not because it's necessarily bad, but because I think it can be a lot better. And basically most of the models and most of the open source things are basically what you can do with one or two really smart people. And I think one of the most interesting questions of the next 6 months is, what does a system like this look like that actually has like a real engineering team behind it? And so hopefully the next versions of that, people will start to see what that looks like. We're kind of moving from a duct tape space to whatever slightly comes after duct tape, to a slightly polished, to like a second generation space. Plywood. Yeah, maybe from duct tape to plywood. And there'll be something after plywood. It'll be pretty unimagined. I guess that'll be when we go 3D and everything. Yeah, I think that's it. A little spacey today, but I think that hopefully got some people out. Some of the stuff that people wanted. Oh yeah, the new versions, we're going to try to have multi-prompts and image prompts and all that stuff back. That's pretty important to us. I feel pretty bad that that disappeared. Yeah. I think that's it. A lot of new features. Don't want to give too much away, but we're generally excited and we're learning a lot. So we'll take questions for a bit.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi. So can you hear me?
Yep, you're coming through.
Just making sure. All right, I'll keep it relatively short. First of all, I was just wondering, is there any intent on being able to better organize our galleries, for example, by work, so that all the variations and remasters and stuff of one work can get grouped together instead of being spaced into multiple pieces in the gallery if we want?
The two things that we're doing next are, we're going to add these things called collections, where you can kind of put a bunch of images into a collection that people can look at together. And then we're going to do a thing where if you rate any of your images high, it kind of shows those on top, and then your unrated images go to like a second sort of raw feed. So when somebody looks at the profile, it kind of shows you like the collections and the images that you rated high, like with the star eyes. And then
Okay.
everything else falls to a second page. The automatic grouping is a good idea, but we don't have that yet. We're working on better search and stuff like that. So I think that better search was required to do better grouping to some extent. Right now, the queries are quite slow, but we're working on that.
Cool. Another question. Ideally, when I don't use the word censorship lightly, but ideally, when you have it to the level of acceptable content, will it be closer to PG-13 or rated R? Because I would bluntly hope for rated R because of the fact that there's a lot of horror artists and horror fans that want to be able to use it. And I don't mean gore. I mean just like I said, rated R at the most.
I don't think we're looking to make it rated R super soon. I think there are really good products that could make that work, but I think that it's just kind of it puts a little bit of a burden on us in the short term in a way that is probably better to just not do. The problem is that like if we burned people's real names into the image and then the prompt into it too, then I wouldn't really mind letting people do whatever they want. The problem is that when their name and prompts aren't on the image, people will just post on the internet and say, "Look what MidJourney did," and then we kind of have to own it, you know? And so like because of that, I don't feel super comfortable jumping to R really fast because then it becomes a game of like who can make the most outrageous content and then say that we made it instead of them. And that really feels sort of frustrating to me.
I can completely understand that, and it is frustrating because MidJourney is just a tool. Like if you make something with Photoshop, it's not Photoshop that made it; it's you that made it. But people don't understand that yet. I understand.
Yeah, it's really tough. It'd be like somebody takes some like terrible thing in Photoshop and says, "Look what Adobe made."
Exactly.
And
And I just want to say I really appreciate what you guys have been doing because I mean, I'm a graphic designer. I dabble in drawing, painting, photography, and what you guys are doing, this is just an amazing new tool to work with.
yeah, thank you. I am trying to figure. I do really want to let like it'd be nice to like relax filters, and we're definitely gonna relax filters a lot. But what would probably happen is if like people try to make something bad, it'll just like what it'll probably do is like if somebody tries to make something bad, it will just do a poor job at it. You know, it like won't look
Mhm.
gross. It won't look. You won't necessarily see blood or nudity. It'll just like it'll be like the best version of that prompt that doesn't involve blood or nudity. If that makes sense.
I understand it. The last thing I would mention about it is that maybe it would eventually make sense if you guys are able to have two tiers or two levels of Midge where one is more censored and family friendly, if that makes sense, and one is not.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's something that makes sense there. It's really just I think this server will be more like the Disneyland
Mhm.
version, and maybe there's like a Miramax, which like I guess Disney has like a second brand for R-rated stuff. I think, or I forget. I think that was Disney. Yeah. Um, but it just doesn't feel like something that like benefits us a lot to rush to.
Thank you
Um,
very much.
yeah. Like I basically I think it's like it's I think there's sort of two sides. On one side, I would like to like allow there to be as much freedom as possible, and I see there, and we've actually done some tests where there's no filters, and you can do it in ways that are pretty positive. And then on the flip side, like I'm a little bit anxious about effectively becoming like a lightning rod for controversy and sensationalism. And so it's
Mhm.
trying to basically balance those two things. And I'm sure we'll get there. It's just because like eventually no one's going to care. Everyone will just chill out. But I think that because things are so um, yeah, I think I don't know. There's definitely like it, I think it's just question. It's more of a question of timing and messaging and like form. Like, do you? Yeah. Than it is the rest. I think.
All right, that's it, David. But thanks again for all you guys' hard work, and this is an amazing tool to work with. I hope people understand it sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I rated around 40k pictures and I wanted to give some feedback because after the first 20,000 it got a little bit dull.
After 30,000, it got a little dull.
After 20,000.
Mm.
But the 3 hour that just keeps me going and it's great. However, it would be great if we could get some variation, like rating one day a specific style. That way, it would be something different, and the more important part, something meaningful, because that makes more fun if it's meaningful. Let's say today I rate only anime or only furries or whatever. And if MidJourney would recommend rating system for that, then it could at the same time train the next version to include a specific data set for that.
Yeah.
And what I also saw was my rating changed and my quality aspects gone up over time. If you make a specific influence on the ratings I make for me in the future, only include the last 20,000, because stuff changed and the stuff I like changed as well.
Thank you. Yeah. I would say that we're not currently using the ratings to specifically adjust it to the single person, but we are looking at doing stuff like that in the future, and we'll certainly give people control over it. It won't just be turned on automatically. It'll be something that you can explicitly do. We kind of believe in like not sort of invisibly changing things on people without telling them. Like we want it to be stable unless we tell you we changed it. And we are going to change the rating system kind of completely at some point. I don't know when we're going to do it exactly. I'm definitely in the next 30 days. Yeah, it's probably not going to be emoji based. It'll probably do something totally different. I don't fully yeah, we're gonna change the rating system a lot, because eventually we may even have like a free tier where it's just based off rating all the time. And so we want to like make it, we want to get ready for a lot more users being kind of power users like you. And I think right now you're probably like one of the top raters, so thank you very much. But we're going to try to make it a better experience as we have more people doing it. But I think we weren't, yeah, we probably didn't think about it enough in terms of like one person doing that many. But it's wonderful that you did, and it's definitely helping our system.
Don't be too happy, I got a slight face blindness. It won't help with the face issue.
That's okay. Yeah, in the future, we're gonna probably increase the rewards and probably even like highlight people who are kind of top curators for the community. So I think we do want to pump this up as like more of a thing over time, because it like right now, if you want to get on the front page of the MidJourney sort of website where it shows all the images, somebody like you has to rate the image first. It can't really ever go up. Like, so in some ways, you might be actually, it's possible that like, 30% of the images on the front page could be stuff that you were the first one to say this is good, and that's pretty awesome. And so those are sort of the curators of the community and helping us find good things. And we definitely want to, like, that should almost be like a whole like class of user that we focus on in the future. We have several groups like that we're going to try to focus on, but the sort of the curator class is a huge thing that we want to like invest in.
When you change the rating system, you could do some game-like stuff, like pick the most pot-like pot of those pots, and coincidentally, the previous day would be daily team pots. That way, you could train MidJourney on difficult tasks, what it should look like. And we would have some kind of game, and also throw in some who are definitely not pots, as one as quality control, and the other just to make us feel that's why is there an unicorn or something like that.
Yeah. So we're definitely going to do some stuff like that where people kind of compare things and say like, these are 4 images of the same thing. Which one do you like most? We're going to do a lot more comparisons in the future. I think that's where the rating system is going to go. It's going to be less about good or bad and more of like, here are 4 images and click them in the order you want. You like them the most. And I think we're going to look at like preferential ordering more than we're going to look at absolute ratings, because in theory, that'll let us actually do much more accurate measurements of a variety of kinds. And I think it might actually be more sort of engaging in some ways. And it'll look really nice on mobile phones because we could try to tile them up on the phone, and you might get a bunch of images, and you just kind of tap them in some order, and you tap them in some order, and it maybe changes shapes and stuff, and 3x1, 2x2, 1x4.
And about the quality of rating, what also would be nice, when the raters would, let's say I rate something with a heart, that an other rater get to see that as well. That way, it would be less pictures overall rated. However, those with multiple hearts would be, MidJourney would know they multiple people like them, not just one.
Yeah, so right now we basically are using like a Reddit algorithm, and so you could it's pretty good. It's basically the Reddit algorithm, and the front page is basically a Reddit front page. And then for the next versions, we're gonna do a lot more sophisticated algorithms, and it'll kind of figure it all out. We already have some prototypes. It's looking pretty good.
And the last one would be a rating of similar upscales. Most people upscale 10 or 20 of the same image with just slight minor variations. Those would be best for the AI to know what's important and what's not important. If we would get a batch of 10 different who look nearly the same. And there are enough of those. I learned this during a boob hunting where I started rating during beta, and the boob hunting got really down since then.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna try to make an extra algorithm that tries to help make sure that people are rating, like that'll try to do a little filtering for people. So I think the feed will get a lot better too.
Yeah. And with those experimental stuff, or those stuff that could be more boring, like rating 10 times the someone's flower they uploaded, and upscale 10 different versions of the same thing. Make a special tier for those dedicated to help, but who won't get bored as fast as me. There are others as me as well.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for the
That
feedback.
was it. You can bring the next up to the stage.
Thank you very much for all the help.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey. I had a question about seeds. Would you be willing to provide more technical detail about how seeds work? I'm a part of a small group of people in prompt craft in like the seed forum who've been experimenting with how seeds can influence images, like specific seeds, I mean. And there's some like debate and confusion, and we're trying to figure out what's confirmation bias versus what actually is. So like one thing we found out, Golden Cross, shout out to them for that, is a lot of times it seems like the seeds you get back are within like a 16-bit positive max, like 32,767 or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the full max is the 32-bit unsigned int length.
Mm-hmm.
So just things like that. It would be really helpful to know if there's more information for like testing, how seeds influence, if they influence only composition and color, or if there's a possibility that they would influence higher level concepts, that kind of thing.
Okay, so for people who don't know, you can do --seed and you can set a number, and it kind of like locks the image in and makes it a little bit less variable as you go between different prompts. So basically the way that this works is that the images are kind of created with a chaotic process, kind of like how creativity itself is chaotic, or maybe more of like a butterfly effect, like the weather. And sort of the seed locks in the initial state that like the weather is at before the butterfly beats its wings. And so it's kind of particular seed values, they tend to affect things like color, a little bit of composition, more like where they tend to affect things like where edges are. They tend to affect, sometimes you get like a seed that just makes weird images, like you just kind of like you just always get weird images with that seed. And the reason why it kind of happens is like it's probably like the dominant it starts off the images start off with random noise, and probably if like the random noise is slightly reddish, then it makes the image more red. Or if the noise has like sort of like a low valley, almost like that it'll sort of edges will form along it like lightning bolts. And then similarly, you might have sort of a little bit more bright in the middle, a little bit more bright on the edge, and it might affect the composition. So when you have these completely random static noise images, in general, like everything should be the same, but you're occasionally get ones that are a little weird, like, and it will result in slightly more biased images in some direction. And so in general, we just like randomly change the seed every image to give people as much randomness as possible. Sometimes when you would lock it in, you want to set the same seed 1, and that'll like make it easier. Just anyway, some kind of seed to lock to a thing, but the system is pretty chaotic, so even when you do it with the same seed, you basically can get slightly different results. That's a little bit on seeds. I don't know how much that helps, or if there's something specific that you would like to know.
No, that was great. Thank you. Yeah, one thing, like we have like a little, research nerd group. One thing that some people have thought they've noticed, I should say, is some seeds almost seem to have an anti-face bias. So like if you were to prompt portrait or character type prompts, it ends up creating a really unusual result. And like for a couple of people, their interpretation was maybe it's anti-face. Does that make sense, or does that like not seem like a feasible result? Is it more confirmation bias kind of thing?
I could imagine something where like the image is slightly the noise might be slightly blob-like, and it's blob-like in a way that it's hard, the face doesn't form nicely over it. It should generally be pretty robust to that, but I think when you start to make like 1,000 images, you're going to have sort of these statistical things in any situation. You're going to kind of sort of anything that can happen will happen. And so I would say that it's pretty consistent with 4 images, but when you do a lot, you'll sort of see weird things. And then, yeah, in theory, there's like if we were going to lock the algorithm for a year, I'd probably like map out the random seed space and start to optimize over that. But every time we change it, it's going to be totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple people who are actually mapping out or trying to using like a stop 10 kind of approach to just see at least one sample point early in the generation.
Yeah. Yeah. And so in theory, there is like there's a whole thing there. And there's probably some cool stuff. Like I kind of like, I'm particularly interested in the seeds that lead to like really weird images, because maybe we could just make all the images more weird, and that's really interesting. But we just haven't had time to study it in depth.
Yeah, I made a spreadsheet. I wasn't able to post it in the actual forum for some reason, but I'll try to get it up. But there are a couple seeds that seem unusual, and some people think that it's because they're anti-face, but yeah, they often lead to unusual compositions and things. So hopefully that can be posted in the forum soon. But thank you so much for providing more detail. Really appreciate it.
I think it's something right now, the seed stuff will be probably pretty different in every version. I think maybe one day in the future we'll try to like lock it so it's a little more consistent between versions, but it's not clear how what that even would mean. Yeah, probably the next versions will be, I think, a little bit, we're making a pretty big jump, I think, in a lot of the way the image models work. So everything's going to change really hard, and then it'll probably stay the same for like potentially like a number of months. We'll see.
Cool. Yeah, for now, it is nice to have seeds that create a kind of like bias toward full figure prompting, and or certain color palettes and things like that. So it is still useful even now. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Definitely in the world, we would try to make it more controllable rather than just being a totally random number,
Cool. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. It's interesting, the kind of like some balance of like randomness, like you have to use the number 36, and then the artist like Babo, like some completely like made up artist that doesn't exist, and like this sort of numerology, the type of version of this. I can never quite tell how much to go in on that and how much to try to pull it out. I think in general, the more we can make things controllable in understandable ways, the better. But it is fun to explore the things that are sort of almost unknown and hard to understand. So it's interesting.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So my question was, the last time you said that MidJourney will give you back some colors if it does not understand the prompt. So I wondered if it's possible to like adjust MidJourney to give you back what exactly it didn't know. So if the prompt is a house, trees, and flowers, and MidJourney gives you back a strange colored house without trees and flowers, then it basically tells you what it does not know. So people would be able to rewrite the prompt properly. But I also wrote in the question that if it's technically not possible, then it's all right. So I just wondered if it's somehow possible to do that.
I think it's hard to tell if it knows something because its knowing is not super defined. What does it mean? But it'd be nice as people could. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do it. It would be nice. It's a good idea, and I don't know how to do it. I don't. Yeah, it's a good idea, but we don't know how to do it. Maybe one day we'll know. We'll know how to know. I guess that's kind of the thing. It's very meta. We don't know how to know if it knows something. It's like we're several steps off from being able to do the feature, but it is a good feature. One thing I would say is it's going to know a lot more with the next version, so the knowledge will keep increasing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, am I on?
Hello.
Hi, I just had a couple of questions. Thanks for picking my prompt there. So it looked like actually just that last person that was on kind of asked a similar question to one that I had. I'm thinking about Afterburner and his attempt at producing a hand holding a sword. But on this same line of thought, one thing that I was wondering is if there is a way to, it could be something that I guess you guys or maybe the community sort of like comes up with, but is there a way to identify like particularly unstable prompts as they're submitted, such as like hands particularly, and maybe set up like an auto response? I think is kind of what the last person was getting at, like to where if someone, especially new users, were to type in like hand holding a sword, for example, then maybe the bot could prompt back like hands are difficult, and essentially saying don't waste all your GPU on trying to make a hand. Maybe try something different. Is there I get your concept about not really knowing, or the AI not really knowing what it knows, but is there a way to sort of identify which things are most obvious to you guys as being difficult to produce through the AI?
You could do it manually, but I don't think there's a good automatic way of doing it. If it had enough data to know that it didn't know something, it would know it, basically.
Right.
And so, but it also doesn't know, like for all it knows, like hands are garbled messes.
Yeah.
And so it's like literally like, what? I thought that's what hands look like. It really doesn't know. And so this is one of the challenges with AI is that like, I guess it's sort of like a variance versus bias. Oh God, I don't know if I can explain that. It's sort of, it kind of it can know how variable something is. Like it knows if something is going to show a lot of different types. It can know how much variation to expect out of a word, but it doesn't know if it's biased towards being correct or like in a good or bad way. It's like, it's hard to know
Yeah.
your own biases, but you could say how unpredictable something is. But if something is unpredictable, doesn't mean that actually it's bad. Like, for example, mountains are probably pretty variable, or waves, but those are okay. And so and so, yeah, it's sort of the bias versus variance. And you can estimate your variance, just how much something will vary, but you can't estimate what your biases are, because if you knew what your biases were, they wouldn't be biases.
That's right. That's a great example. Yeah, I really love that. It wasn't actually my most important question. It was just kind of a side note, really. But I was curious about like social aspirations that you guys have as far as like social networking. Another person kind of alluded to something like this. She was talking about being able to have your images in a collection, and I really loved that idea that you said about rating your images. I mean, that does also serve the your guys's desire to have more people rating their images to help train the AI, but also on the social end, it's nice. It would be nice to be able to have your stuff in order. So really, my question is, are there plans in motion to move in the direction of having your guys' own social networking app of some kind to like share and comment or follow other MidJourney artists and kind of like what is the future? What will the future of like the community feed in general? What will it look like in your mind?
We're definitely, I think it's challenging because there's definitely a social element to this, but we don't want to just copy Instagram.
Right.
And so like, I think I do want to let people, I think everybody should have a raw feed that everybody else can see. I'm starting to lean towards making the raw feed like a second tab. And the first tab being like things that you rate well, that you liked, and things that are collections that you have. Top. But if they don't do that, it'll just show the raw feed. And I think that's purely a benefit. It's so tough because I also don't want to make things really complicated. But it's a weird balance between like doing things right and not making it complicated. And for me, even the collections already feel a little complicated, but I think some people they have their project and they want to have a collection, so it kind of matches with what they want. So I wouldn't really do any collections. I would probably just rate things. Personally. But there are going to be a lot of other social features. Like you can follow people right now. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of that. I mean, there's a lot of images being made, and most of them are by people I don't know. And it's kind of cool to see things by people I don't know that are new. And so the whole idea of like, well, I think we'll have to see whether are there actually, how much of the new images are coming from new people, how much of the top rated images are coming from new people versus from like the same people over and over again. I think the more that it's top heavy, the more that those sorts of follows make sense. But I don't know. If anything, I mean, if you have friends on here doing stuff, being able to follow them makes sense. So it's like for people that you know, I think it makes sense. But I'm not sure if like I would rather have a system that tries to just show you new things that are really like unusual and inspiring, and not necessarily make it about following specific people. Because I think it's more important that we make people inspired than that we have somebody with a lot of followers. But it's a real hard balance. I do think if we reward it's basically whatever we put numbers on, like becomes something that everyone focuses on. So if we show people followers, people will try to focus on having as many followers as possible. If we show the number of likes, people will try to like maximize likes. And if no one liked their image, they'll feel sad. Whereas if we don't show likes, people will just feel good if they like the image, and they'll feel bad if they won't feel bad if they don't like it. And so I think the challenge is to really pick what we want to celebrate and try to make it a purely positive thing. So we're looking at having, like, I think I'm going to celebrate people who curate a lot, like people who help us, like the guy who rated 40,000 images, because that's really important. We're going to celebrate people who are influential. You know, somebody who, like, there's this person who made like this armored cat image, and it like sponsored it created like this whole genre of like armored animals. And like, that's awesome. That person created like a new little genre that should be celebrated. And then people just making really weird images that like no one has ever seen before, that look totally different, that are pushing like the frontiers of aesthetics. I think we should celebrate those people too. And so we're going to probably build the social network around kind of celebrating those things, like curation, exploration, and like trends, like trend setting almost. And then I think we'll be very careful about showing numbers. Just because I think numbers like destroy people's minds. and yeah, there's a really cool plot somewhere of marathon race times of like how long somebody takes to run a marathon, which and in theory it should be like a smooth curve because some people are like faster and some people are slower. But instead, what you see is that there's like way more people as you approach like the 1 minute mark and the 2 minute mark and the 3 minute mark. People become kind of obsessed with hitting sort of specific numbers. And I think to the extent that we can minimize that, the better, because I don't really want people thinking about maxing some number. But we might have like a leaderboard, like these are the top 3, these are the top explorers of the day and the most trend-setting people of the day and the top curators of the day, and then we might reward those people with like tons of fast hours or free memberships or something. So I think we definitely want to like find the people who are really helping and reward them a lot. But and then we're gonna have a lot more chat rooms and sort of more sort of like ways of people meeting each other. But I'm leaning away from like concepts like following and liking, follows and likes. You there? You're on mute. Okay. Well, thank you for asking the question. I guess we can go to the next person. Ancient, are you there? Has everything gone dead?
I'm here and invited someone up, so might be Discord being weird.
Yeah, so we definitely want to like make things more diverse, so that way if you don't like seeing if you hate furries, you don't have to see furries and if you love furries, you can just see only furries. And try to have more of that, like more personalization for sure, and sort of more sub communities. I would say that's definitely another thing that we're definitely going to move towards.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay, just got some questions about chaos, which I ignored for a while. And my mic sound like shit. Sorry. Well, anyway, I just had a couple questions about chaos. Is the default value of chaos 0 or 1? Because I've heard multiple things, and I mean, in my opinion, it'd be better at like 5 or 10 because I love it. But I was just wondering, is it actually 0 or 1 when you
It's
run
0.
the setting? It's 0. One of the other questions I had was I've observed that it generates a lot of variety in the individual grids that you have on a first roll, but when you do a variation roll, there isn't necessarily that same amount of variety. And I was wondering if it'd be possible to have some kind of like meta chaos command or extra chaos command that continues to add or shake things up for V rolls as well as initial rolls.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. The chaos isn't really like an official feature right now. It's more of like a testing feature. We're still trying to figure out what we're doing with it. Yeah.
Like my understanding is that it's random concepts, yeah? Like random like not necessarily English words, but random concepts that MidJourney has in its big parameter array database or whatever. It just tosses them into the prompt based on your value, yeah?
No.
No, okay.
The chaos doesn't affect the prompts at all. The chaos sort of it like pushes things in the vector space when it's making the image.
Oh, so it like makes the diffuser drunk?
Yeah, a little drunk, yeah.
Okay, see that's what I thought it did at first, but then this was a secondhand office hours that I wasn't in, so probably someone described it wrong. Anyway, that's cool, I guess. So that obviates the third question I was going to ask since it doesn't work that way. But yeah, chaos is awesome. Everyone should use it more. You're not using it enough.
I think chaos only doesn't work on the test and test P, but it does work on V1, V2, V3, HD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mostly work in V3, so.
Yeah, it definitely does stuff in V3. That's what we were building it for originally because V3 by default is like a little bit not enough variety, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to find like a default chaos level that like adds more variety, particularly as you go to bigger grids. But then we kind of stopped working on V3 as we were trying to push towards the new stuff because we have so many things that are like in some way like radically better than V3 and test stuff. So we're just kind of trying to get it all together where it's sort of only better. And yeah, so just trying to push forward as hard as we can.
I'm surprised to hear that it's really just because the prompts I get, even with high chaos, are shockingly coherent. It really just seems like it's more like random concepts than the diffuser just being a little unsteady, because it kicks out some really cool output.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I oversimplified. It makes it drunk in a way that tries to preserve the concept.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I had. Thanks
It's
a
a little
bunch.
weird. It's like a novel mathematical formulation for drunkenness, effectively. It's like not a normal thing that anyone has done anywhere else.
Yeah, definitely keep that around. It's really fun to play with. I've been started just tossing Chaos 5, Chaos 10 into almost all my prompts, unless I'm going for something finicky like text.
Yeah, the -- creative thing on the test and test B is a little. It actually works differently, but it does something similar. But it is yeah, we're the next version is gonna be so different. I don't know what it's gonna be like, but there will be something similar. There'll be some new equivalent similar concept.
All right, cool, man. Can't wait for remix. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. My name is Rose. I'm an amateur graphic designer. I'm currently making a graphic novel for MidJourney, which I must say, your tool is a huge opportunity for me, since traditional drawing and illustrating is inaccessible for me. So thanks for that, first of all.
Thank you.
My first question was about the increased batch sizes, which you touched upon up at the start. Personally, my biggest use of such a feature would be for prompts that I know the model will struggle with, to get more options to work with immediately. So can you elaborate a bit more on that, such as how much bigger batches, how much it will increase generation time, and will it be available in all modes and versions of the current model?
We did surveys, and most people want like 3x3 by default instead of 2x2. But I think that a lot of people would do 4x4 or 8x8. I personally prefer 8x8. That's because I look at a lot of pictures. I almost only use 8x8 with a lot of my testing. More than 8x8 actually gets kind of hard to look at with your eyeballs. Like you end up having to like, you can't really look at all of it quickly. And when we make the bigger batches, I don't think we're going to have it for the old versions. I think it'll only be for the new versions. Just because, yeah, I think we're going to the other versions are like V3. It doesn't have enough variety for the big grids with the default settings. That's why we're working on the chaos, but we don't have time to finish that. Like V1 and V2, not enough people use. HD, not enough people use. And the test and test P is kind of like too slow to be economical at large batches. And so the goal for the new ones is to be both faster and better, so that large batches are economical and can be something that everybody can use. So we'll probably it'll probably be only the new stuff.
Okay, I see. Thank you. My second question, just out of curiosity, I'm asking this. In a bit more detail, what's the difference between fast mode and relaxed mode? Because even with the minutes of queuing in relaxed mode, it does feel a bit generous to make it unlimited. I mean, perhaps it's a trade secret of your business model, but how do you make the system profitable with those few minutes of waiting in exchange for theoretically infinite system resources? As I said, just of curiosity.
We just take a loss. So like relax mode kind of loses us a little money right now. And we have to hope that like the number of people not using relax mode pay for the people who do use relax mode. So we basically, I think we were kind of making too much money, and then we tried to figure out like, we don't really want to we don't really care about making a lot of money like that. So let's like have this relax mode and drive the wait time down and lose money on it to give better experiences to people. And so we've kind of just turned the knob up and down, and and it's kind of we just kind of it's sort of a finely balanced thing right now.
I see. Well, awful generous of you. I hope I don't give you any bad ideas with my question. Well, thanks a lot.
No problem. Yeah, the original beta actually had the unlimited images at fast speed, but then we basically the top 5% of people like wiped it out and we just lost money, like a ton of money. So we had to put the wait time in to make it not lose us sort of unlimited money. And the wait time kind of helps decrease the costs of the people who are heavy users, because they kind of help fill in the gaps of the people of the computers that are sitting idle.
I see. Well, thanks a lot for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Hello there.
Hello.
I want to tell you I'm actually still very new with the program, so there's a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about that I've still got to delve into. But as a new user here, I run a game design studio. We design virtual worlds for Minecraft. And so one of the things that I've noticed is this tool is incredibly wonderful for coming up with new images and ideas. I can really get across to my team what I'm looking for. What are your plans for making this into a 3D tool? I've heard rumors around that you had the intent to do that, but something like that would be that much more useful. And so I was curious to know if you do plan on doing that, kind of what a rough time frame is. That I know you guys wouldn't be able to be like, yeah, next month, but kind of like a year or two down the road. What are you guys' plans for making this into a 3D platform?
We're gonna have a lot. We'll have some 3D proof of concepts in the relatively short term. I think there's a big difference between a proof of concept and a product. So I think that we know that we'll have 3D stuff this year as proof of concepts, but I don't think we know when the products will come, whether it'll be like 1 month later or 6 months later. But I would say that I would be pretty disappointed if we didn't see 3D products next year with our stuff.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. I look forward to it. If you guys need help testing that, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Of course.
Thank you guys very much.
Mm-hmm. I think 3D will be like weirdly transformative. It's sort of not totally intuitive on an intellectual level, but on like a spiritual level, I think part of MidJourney is about increasingly being able to like manifest our thoughts into the world around us, and moving towards 3D is sort of about creating those manifestations, manifesting it more in a way that's a little hard to appreciate until you see it. I guess we're waiting for another. Oh, there we go.
I think I'm supposed to be next.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. I am here for everybody else's context who hasn't heard me in the office hours before. I am here to ask David a couple of questions from the forum, from people who are shy and don't want to speak in front of all of these people. All right. I have a first question lined up for you. It's from Mishad 2003. And honestly, I'm asking you this just because I have no idea what it is, and I want to know now. But they asked, are you planning to implement the dream boost technique that can implement new knowledge to the existing model? So for example, you can generate yourself as an anime. Do you know about that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of new AI projects where you retrain the model a little bit around some images. It's pretty slow. Essentially like 15 minutes or an hour or something to fine tune the model so that it can like make just pictures of yourself or of a backpack or something. I think we want to, from a pure research standpoint, and from an algorithm standpoint, it doesn't really make sense why you would need to do that to get that result. So I think we're leaning towards doing it in a way that's faster and sort of doesn't require retraining. We would just you could just give it some images and it could put that person in an image, or you could give it some images and it could do that style. So we have image prompts already, and image prompts right now can do a little bit of that, but not all of that. But making image prompts more powerful makes a lot more sense than retraining the model. And I think that there'll be a lot of papers like that have a cool feature, but potentially are implemented in a way that doesn't totally make sense. And so we're going to try to do it in a way that's definitely more quicker and more affordable and more controllable.
Cool. Yeah, I was just like, I have no idea what this is, so this sounds interesting.
I don't want to build a product that takes 15 minutes to retrain the whole model and then stores a 4 GB file every time they make a picture type of thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. And if it was absolutely necessary, I would think about it. But it's not clear even why they did it like that. I think they did it. I think the Dream Booth thing is sort of if you want to publish a paper and you want to only work on it for 2 weeks, that's kind of how you would do it. But if you want to build a product, you would spend a month on it and then make it zero cost instead. So it's kind of weird, actually, that they did it. To me, it's weird that they did it that way. But I think that we're going to see a lot of stuff in this space that are kind of about publishing a paper or getting some tweets rather than about making a product. And that's great. They get their tweets or their paper, but we're trying to make definitely when we try to make something real, we have to be a little bit more critical about how it's done. Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, next question from Art Homage. They asked, is there any deeper data behind the scenes, such as how many and which specific elements in the model that are used with making an image? And is there metadata that is retained in the model as the source of those elements? They're asking, is there a way to report on how each prompt element was used, if at all, and the importance / weight on that?
Yeah, it is possible to kind of get a sense of which words are more important in the prompt. We're thinking about doing that in the future. I don't think I understood the rest of the question.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting how they worded it. I think they're asking if you say red tree in, I don't know, in the ocean. I think they're asking if the tree part, if it's being pulled from very specific images, and if there's any metadata kept on that.
It's not really pulling things from specific images. It's basically trained on hundreds of millions of images, and it only gets to save it only gets to remember. It has to compress it down by a factor of 100,000. So it really doesn't remember very much about any specific image unless it sees it 10,000 times. So it's not clear how much that makes sense or not. It's something we want to investigate more in the future, but for now, we kind of try to make it purposely not be like the images it's seen before. And so I'm not actually sure what that does. If we're don't be like any of the images you've seen, now which image are you most like that you've seen? It's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's definitely something that we should investigate more at some point. But I don't think it's definitely not kit bashing like some of the other models.
Got it.
Just rip stuff from different images.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Well, talking about training, somebody asked, who asked? Kiera asked, since you were talking earlier about training new models, do you use new training data for each of those models? And they're asking what those look like, where they come from.
We're mostly changing the models right now more than the data. When we've changed the data, usually we just keep the same data but filter it, like try to remove more bad stuff. We haven't really been significantly shifting the data in terms of like some people think that our stuff looks more artistic because it's trained on more art, and that's not true. We don't really try to put any art in the data set right now. It's not really doing anything like that. The ratings help more than like a lot of this actual, like the user data probably helps more than the actual data, the image data in a lot of situations.
Oh, okay, so you're not necessarily like changing any of the images that go into MidJourney. You're just changing you're just like tweaking all of the stuff outside of that to make it different.
Yeah, right now actually it's like the models themselves are pretty in a pretty early stage. So trying to figure out what those should look like is a bigger challenge than playing with it doesn't really make sense to play with the images as much. But at some point we're going to try to put more images in there. I think when we put more images in the data set, it'll be more around increasing like niche knowledge, like different areas of history that are not well covered by the internet. And so it can kind of have a greater aesthetic power.
Cool. All right, I have 2 more questions for you. They're a little bit more fun than these. The first one is from, I have to like scroll every time I look for the name. It is from Spittoon. They asked, what are some of the most weird or useful or unexpected things you've learned / discovered from running the supercomputer models?
Mainly that we can probably get things both faster and larger batches and higher quality sooner, like all together and sooner than we thought. And so we're still trying to sort of wrap our heads around the ramifications of that. But I think you never really know if it's like, is there a 2x headroom? Is there going to be a 2x improvement or a 10x improvement or 50x improvement? And then is there going to be a trade-off? And I think getting a sense of exactly how big the improvements are and that there may not be trade-offs or significant trade-offs is kind of the most mostly where we're kind of our heads are kind of exploding right now.
That's really cool. If your head's imploding right now, I can't even imagine how crazy that must be, because even stuff you said like 2 months ago about how you're like, oh yeah, I generated 40,000 images all at once, that makes my brain explode. So if you're like past that and you're now like, hey, there's new things that's making my brain explode, like that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's not so much like I'm going to make 1 million images now. It's more of like, as things get faster, it becomes more and more possible to let everybody make 1,000 or 10,000 images. That becomes more normal. So like the price drops to some extent. And so I think that like it starts to become more important. Like if everybody starts getting grids of 64 images, then we need to have more user interface research around people having 10,000 images, right? Because it's much easier it actually takes a long time to get to takes a long time to get to 10,000 images with 4 images at a time. But if you're doing 64 at a time, like yeah, you're going to get there 20 times faster or something, 10 times faster. So that's probably, I've been thinking a lot lately about how the user interfaces end up looking totally different as you get to more and more images, and we probably have to do something really crazy to make that good.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because I think the feeling on larger grids, it's really cool, but they're also super overwhelming. It's like actually trying to use it in practice, like having a 64 laid out thing. It's like, where do I even look? So that's really cool that you guys are thinking of that. All right, I have one more question for you. It is from Fun with Frats. I love that username, by the way. She asked, David often talks about images which are inspiring. I was wondering if he would share some examples of images that inspire him.
Or just what images inspire me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like things like I really like things that are sort of that like combine like 12 styles and are like hyper ornate, hyper organic. Sort of things that don't really feel like that they're human or machine, that they're just sort of some new thing. Things that feel sort of, yeah, that's usually my favorites. I don't have any specific one I would drop though for it.
Okay, I have to like get one thing in now that you said that. I've been doing this thing recently where I'll go to the community feed and I'll copy a prompt and then I'll add the little multi-prompt and go back, copy another prompt and put them together. And that often like creates some really like intricate, detailed new styles that are really fun. And if I had to say anything like for everybody to try, like it's so much fun to try that. Highly recommend. All right, that's all I got for you. I'm gonna hop off now. It was great talking to you and maybe talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi. Okay. I have a bunch of questions from me and my friends, so I'm sorry for taking your time for maybe a little longer. Well, being a power user, I was really enjoying to use Remix, but I probably will be asking about it sometime later when it will be released, not being in beta version, because I really have a question about it. But I'll start with what my friends gather. Also, yeah, thanks for creating MidJourney because I met a lot of talent people through these. Very artistic, and this is so amazing to have them near me, around me, surrounded by them. And
How are you meeting people most on here right now? On the voice channels or in the threads or the channels or the chat channels or?
we are sitting mostly in just the showcase, and we have a thread, and we have some small community challenge that we started as a friendly challenge, and now I'm trying to run it through weekends, every weekends from like a few weeks ago. So yeah, like meeting new people and new people and new people, and I'm just really amazed how many people you have around you, and you're able to inspire them and being inspired by them, and that's amazing. That's really amazing. I don't really remember that I have this outcome when I was studying art before. Yes, I did it. So this is just amazing. Thank you. But okay, I'll go to the question because I can talk a lot, and I'll be show of me, not of you. Okay, so one of my friends was asking about that in a previous office hour you was mentioned that MJ have a unique situation where there are more creators than consumers or viewers. And do you have any plans to work on it? And maybe you will share some ideas with us how to get those viewers to gallery pages. Because yeah, I know there is a lot of people who sit in on a Discord, for example, but they are not on site. And yeah, new faces on site would be also very, very pleasant to see.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to do it. We're probably going to have a better viewing experience, like for people who aren't making stuff. It's also possible that, but yeah, we're gonna have a much better viewing experience. But I don't. One of the things we haven't seen yet is like when we do that, like will we get like how many users will we have that just view things that don't do anything else? I have no idea. That's kind of like a new type of user, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, theoretically, people can watch some of the channels right now without being able to post to them, like the trial users. We don't really have any way of seeing how many people are kind of just watching things versus making things. You can mostly only see when people make stuff. So I definitely want to have a better experience. People can look at things, but mostly is that they feel inspired to make things. But then if there's another group of people who just want to look at things, like that'll be cool. And then if they want to rate things too, they can potentially get some like free tiers in the future. So that might be another way to get it. If we have like a lot of people who are rating like mad for free tiers, then that might help us catch up. We're also going to try to like have some AI systems that can help pick out like new images that might be interesting without anybody ever looking at them before, just so that we can kind of if like the AI might be like, oh, that's pretty and new, and it might like try to surface it a little bit to get more attention on it. And
That
so
would be interesting.
we're gonna try to use like a combination of AI and free tiers and just better viewing experiences to get the numbers up. But right now, I would say we almost have like there's 10 times more images than ratings right now, which
Yeah.
means like 9 out of 10 images are never like seen by anybody except for the person who makes it. So that's a pretty big gap to close, and I don't know if we'll be able to close it entirely with humans. But at least with the AI side, I think we could definitely make sure that if something it looks beautiful and new, that if the AI says, "Oh, that's beautiful and new," it might like try to make sure a person gets to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, that will conclude the next question about, for example, I wanted to show my friend who's not in MidJourney at all. They're not using it, but I wanted to show them my gallery. And they wasn't able to see it from the website because they are not users. Will they be public galleries, viewers for people who not using MidJourney, but maybe they will see my stuff or my friend's stuff and they will be like, I want to try it. Something like that.
We want to make things more public. We're trying to figure out what to do exactly. Like, we don't know if we should just make all the images public, or if we should make it so people can like make public collections that other people can see, or if we just make it so anybody can see like the collection. Like, we're trying to figure out like what balance of public versus collections versus keeping it members only. I don't know what we're gonna do yet, to be honest. I do worry a little bit about like Google image search, like scraping all of our images and then making it so that like if somebody Googles an artist's name, they get like MidJourney images first. Like that kind of makes me mad, and I don't know how to fix that except for not letting the website be public. But yeah, I'm not sure what like I'm trying to figure it out still.
Okay. Well, we will be waiting for it. The next question from another friend was about sometimes, well, not sometimes, but usually, but we will see the message, bot deploy some bug fixes. And we're actually very curious. What is the bugs we are fixing right now? And maybe you'll be willing one day to share this change log for users in the future. So we will be able to see that you fixed that bug or something new, like, if that's possible, if that will not be ruin your models or anything.
Usually when the developers say bug fix, they're supposed to say what it is. If they just say bug fix instead, then it means it's something like really obscure, like the bot was failing 1% of the time when somebody used like a double dash thing. Like so if they're not specific, it usually means it's really kind of obscure. But they should be saying what it is. We're not really trying to be particularly secretive about bug fixes.
Okay. The one question from me is, I don't know, is that the new specific or it's a new dust model, but MidJourney sometimes doing a split image, like 2 images in one, or like a page from a comic or something like that. For me personally, it's amazing. I really like it, but I would love to control it. And I didn't find a seed or a specific word that will be triggering it. And I would really like to have this opportunity to have it and try to do something by myself, not like only MidJourney, but I mean the force MidJourney to do that type of image, because that will be interesting.
So are you saying like when the image has like lots of like it has more than one image in the image?
Yeah, like
I think it's just a bug. The next version shouldn't do it anymore.
Oh. No, don't take it from me. Make it just controllable. Because literally, I grow fond to it, and I really like the image when I surprisingly have something that.
I think you could always ask for like a collage or something, or a comic book. If you ask it for like a collage or a comic book, it'll do it.
Okay,
It shouldn't
I'll
do it if
take
you
it.
don't ask for it.
Okay. What I have in my question. Oh, one more question, and I'll be going. So the last question was about do you plan to upgrade payment for fast GPU or higher GPU? Because people are a bit complaining that after they using their fast hours and they go into method, it's became quite costly and maybe even double cost. It's probably good for you, but they asking maybe you will have something change with
I
it.
think the challenge is that the reason why it's so cheap without the metered hours is because not everybody uses it. And so basically, if not everybody uses it, then like the people who don't use it can subsidize the people who do use it. And then the second you're buying it per hour, then we kind of have to charge you closer to what it costs, you know? So basically, so like for example, if like $30 gets 15 hours, but the average person uses 7 hours, then somebody can use more than that. It doesn't matter. Like, but then it's sort of like, yeah, but when you're actually using every hour, it is more expensive. We are thinking about dropping the cost a little bit, but we're more likely just to have like a higher subscription tier for people who want to go over 15. Like I think we're going to do a $60 subscription tier with 30 fast hours or something, and the private mode and all that just thrown in. And so I think we're just going to have higher tiers. The tiers make it a lot easier to handle, like versus buying each hour. But I don't know. I'm not sure how to do it better. We're gonna try to change a lot of pricing, honestly, over the next month or two. But the first two things we're gonna do is we're gonna let people buy a yearly subscription for a big discount, and we're gonna have a $60 tier. Those are probably the next two things we're doing, and then after that we might have some like a $20 tier, and we might do like a different meter thing. We kind of have to like we kind of want to take it one step at a time, but we are gonna do a lot of stuff like that.
Okay, so I swear there will be a last question. We meet with one of my friend with the situation when he didn't use full of his fast matters. Like there was 2 hours left, and when he renew his subscription, they just gone. Maybe if people will be not using those fast hours, they will be summed with their renewal when they will be renewal, for example.
The reason why they don't roll over is because we offer that many because not everybody uses them, and if everybody uses them, then we can't afford it at that price right now.
Okay.
So we kind of like the $30 is basically a weird situation where we give everybody as much as we can, because some people are going to lose us money and some people are going to make us money, but then it ends up like canceling out. And if we make it easier for people to get more, then it starts canceling out and then we just lose money. So it's kind of in this careful balance right now. And we're definitely gonna add more. Like your people are gonna be able to get more for less, for sure. But I think like each of the tiers will have different benefits. Like if you only want 4 images at a time, I think that's gonna get cheaper. But if you want 64 images at a time, then it might stay more expensive. So that'll probably like the $20 tier will probably be like it'll be like the $30 tier, but the features will be more limited. Like you won't be able to use some of the high resolution stuff for the big batches. And so yeah, so if basically people don't want big batches or high resolution, then $20 will basically give them like a really good value. And then the $30 will probably be for people who want like all those extra features. And then there'll be a $60 one with probably some extra features. So we're kind of trying to figure out how to optimize it, but it's a little scary because it's what pays for everything. So we have to be careful that we don't like destroy our ability to pay for the servers. So
Yeah, that's understandable.
we're gonna take like a few steps at a time, which is I think the yearly and the 60, and then we're gonna start to try to maybe like the $20 plan, and then we're gonna try maybe you might go more expensive and less expensive too. So we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
conversation. Maybe
Sure.
we'll hear each other next week. Who knows? Thank
No
you
problem.
and bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye.
All right, is this working?
Hello. Yep.
Okay, so I'm wondering about if there's ever going to be something that's more tailored specifically to fixing like specific problems. Because right now you'll make something, you'll be like, oh, her hip is facing the wrong direction, or that hand is slightly off. And all you can really do is re-roll or variation, and that'll often change way more than just the hand or the limb angle. So I was wondering if it would make sense to have a model that's just purely trained on fixing things and, having a separate rating queue where users just look at images and be like, oh, this hand is wrong, box out the hand, or this limb is in the wrong place, and then use that as a way to help create a training data set for that.
I think at some point it makes sense to do that. Right now we're definitely more focused on just making the quality better and having bigger batches, because you might find that if the quality gets better, you don't see the issue anymore. Or if you have bigger batches, you might just do some variations and you'll get the one you want. And that's kind of a simpler flow. We're a little worried that the second that people start like trying to fix a single image, it's I think we're going to get better quality images by I think the goal is to have the best quality image at the end, and the best way to get to higher quality, I think, is having individual images that are better and then bigger batches. And then if there's something, and then at some point we'll do like a fixing mode, but I think we don't even know a lot of the problems might just go away as we make things better, So we don't want to focus on trying to fix, making it easy to fix small problems. We want to just sort of do big changes that make everything better right now. So this is kind of a weird thing with machine learning is, with normal software, it's find a bug, fix a bug, find a bug, fix a bug, make a bug fixing thing. Whereas with the AI, it's you kind of want to just step back and kind of philosophically ask, what does it mean for something to break? What does it mean for something to be good? How do we make more of the good things happen and less of the bad things happen? We kind of have to take these very large philosophical brushes and try to make things much better at a time. Yeah, so I would say in general, maybe the rule of thumb is we're much more focused on 10x improvements right now. And I think at some point we'll say, okay, there's no more 10x improvements. And then we're going to stop and we're going to do those kind of things that you're saying, which are totally reasonable and good things to do. But as long as there's a 10x thing on the table, we're going to go towards that first.
And so when you're evaluating what a 10x thing is, aside from just that sort of better model, do things like being able to have a way to set what the scene's going to look like broadly, with image anchors, or having a way to pick a character that you like that you've made and put that somewhere else, do you see those more as the incremental improvements because they're specific use cases, or do you see those because they're so impactful in those use cases as 10x items?
I think the anchors is a big improvement in controllability. It's a 10x improvement in controllability, but I don't think it's going to be a 10x improvement in quality. And so I would say there's we're going for 10x things, and 10x things could be controllability or quality. For example, I'd much rather do the anchors, which is a way to anchor composition or style or character, or something like that. I think that is going to lead to much more. I think that leads to a lot more functionality than just adding in painting. So I would probably do that first.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I think that's definitely higher impact. I'm a little
And then
yeah. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
That's it.
Yeah, just one final thing just to wrap this all up.
Mhm.
Then what do you feel about the sort of smaller features? Like, let's say if someone just wanted to have a way to have a random color palette per thing in the square. Like, I know that's not necessarily a 10x, but it seems like something that would be small enough to potentially be on the table. So what's your attitude towards those smaller things that aren't these big changes to the model, but aren't, those 10x's?
I think there are certain things which are sort of like transformative. I think there are some small features which seem kind of niche, but are somehow like transformative in a medium sense. So like a great example is the tiling feature we added. Like tiling feels kind of niche, but it's also kind of like weirdly transformative because like the tilings are quite often superhuman, and tilings are actually really useful for a lot of things, and they're quite beautiful. And it's only like a day or two to do it for one person. So if something takes like 2 days for one person and kind of creates like this new sort of medium that is superhuman, like that's really interesting. And so there's a bunch of things like that we are going to do, but I definitely, it's much more, I think much more about exploring new ground than about, like I think we're much more focused on increasing the amount of ground being explored than about like exploring one area really, really good. Like, oh, I want to like craft the perfect single tree, and I want to say where all the branches go, and I want to put a person right here and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you're more focused right now just on growing the feature set than fine tuning. Like, this would be a nice to have.
I know, more of like making it so that a person can explore a greater space of images. Like and have humans broadly explore the space of aesthetics. Because I would say that on average, people don't know what they want. And so allowing them to sort of figure out what they want through faster and broader exploration is better for most people. And then there are some people who kind of have some very particular thing. Like, I want it exactly in this style with this thing here and this thing here and this detail there and this detail there. And they're almost like movie directors almost. And I think that's like 1% or 0.1% of people. It is actually pretty unusual. It's pretty cool, like when you're that talented to know exactly what you want, but it is very unusual. And the average person comes in and they're just sort of like, dog. I want a dog.
Yeah.
And they literally have no idea. And so I think there's something really beautiful about letting somebody who doesn't know what they want to kind of explore like a huge superhuman space and figure that out. And I think we're going to get, and I would also say that it's really hard to discover something new by being really detail oriented on a single image. Like there's so many,
that makes sense.
It's pretty clear from us that like I play with the 64 grids and I see things so often that just feel like something that no one has ever seen before. Like, oh my God, that's like a totally new style, or I don't even know what that is. It's just beautiful. And the ability to kind of like sort of fall upon those things which just are totally new is so beautiful and so sublime that like I really want to make that happen more. Because like I have a pretty good imagination, but like I see things that I couldn't imagine. And that's sort of like you're at the sort of like transhuman imagination, like imaginative powers. And like I guess I'm very leaning, I guess I personally like am sort of drawn to the transcendent. So when something kind of feels like I'm a very imaginative human, this is beyond my imagination, I want to like go closer to that to like figure out how far I can push that. Much more than I am like seeking seeking a very the particular craft of a single image, if that makes sense, which is equally beautiful, but it's sort of not my spiritual draw, I would say.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's definitely like an interesting opportunity to like have 1 million people like exploring and pushing out like and rating each other's stuff and ideas sharing, like we have the opportunity to create this like aesthetic accelerationism almost that can push the boundaries of aesthetics in ways that have never happened in history. And like there's something really interesting about that, especially as the system learns from people and gets better and better. Like it's there's an interesting opportunity there that I that it's like really hard to pass up.
Yeah, that's really enlightening. Just sort of hearing your vision for, or your sort of your guiding principle for what you value. So, thanks for that. And I'm going to pass myself off to the next person.
I think I would say that like I kind of see, I probably see two flows in the future. One flow is very much like a fan out, fan in, where you go really wide, not knowing what you want, and then you kind of hone in on what you want. And then I think there's going to be another flow, which is maybe more for specific types of artists, where you kind of interweave with the machine, and you kind of like you kind of start off knowing what you want, and then you like, and then it kind of throws some things back, and you throw things back, and it's more like you're jamming with a band. And like that's probably a very different flow that requires a significantly different set of skills. Um, I think both are going to be really interesting. We're probably going to do more of the fan out, fan in first, but we are trying to spec out these sort of weaving projects that interweave with the person with like significantly more feedback. The weaving versions like need you to put a lot in though. They're like, I need you to put in whatever you want to get out type of thing. Like they'll be much more demanding. But I do think that for certain forms of artists, they'll be able to do really incredible things that way. But I kind of see things going bifurcating in those two directions. We'll do stuff in both directions, though.
Yeah, that second, I mean, like I can't produce music, but I can play like improvisation, and I think that kind of is those two flows. You know, one is being more technical and kind of like, oh, I know this, and the other one is very, I'm going to do a thing. It's going to sound good. Then it's going to show me something. I'm going to think that sounds good. And I certainly hope there's room for that second, because I think that's a very interesting idea for a flow of written and drawn media, and not just like basically performing an illustration. I think sounds like an interesting concept.
Yeah, it's a lot more challenging to do, so that's why we're probably going to do it second.
I mean, that makes sense.
A lot of the
I'm looking forward to it though.
A lot of the data is challenging because like it requires sort of some almost like these, it requires like a weirder form of data that hasn't actually been collected before. And so it's hard to like, it's going to be hard to make. I would be stunned if we don't have something like in the upcoming year that's really good. But it's definitely like, we tried to do something like last month on this and we like totally failed. We like just couldn't do it yet. Like we like, oh shit, we just need a bunch of new data sets. Like, so we're kind of scoping out those data sets and trying to do it now, but it's something that like we absolutely don't have the ability to do just like off the bat.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Do you think it's possible to generate VR worlds using this tech?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that all the VR and AR content in the future will probably be generated with this tech because whereas like people whereas 3D stuff is a lot harder to make than 2D stuff. So like, yeah, there are a lot of people who can draw really well. There are a lot of incredible 2D artists, but 3D is just so much harder. Even the people who make 3D stuff are like, oh yeah, it's hard to make 3D stuff. And so if you start to see 3D stuff being made as easily as the 2D stuff, then I think it's going to be a much more dramatic shift in the way that 3D content is generated. And so I think that probably almost all the 3D content will be generated this way in the future. Yeah, so that means all the VR and AR stuff too.
It's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, I imagine like typing in something and then just going into a world, kind of like a holiday, temporary holiday.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be really weird because like in video games, when you have like an object, it's sort of like you can't really change it. Like at best, you get Legos and you can kind of put the Legos together. But in this case, it's almost like everything in the virtual world is like liquid, and you could just like say some words and it like reshapes as if it's made of liquid. So like everything in the future is kind of made of liquid imagination, and it kind of swirls around around the room, and it forms mountains and trees and little animals and runes and all sorts of things. And I think a big question is how do we create these like surfboards to like surf the ocean of liquid imagination for like the people of the future?
Yeah, that's quite cool. How long do you think it would take for a smartphone to be able to run one of the, I guess, MidJourney algorithms?
We could probably make it run on a
Natively.
smartphone. We could make it run on a smartphone now, but you would only get like one image at a time, and I think that would kind of suck. Like I don't like getting one. Like I even 2x2 images is like pretty important, and 2x2 is really hard. Like it's basically impossible on a smartphone. And then if you want to do like 64 images, like it's just not going to happen. So I think that for the next 5 or 6 years, I think that all of the good experiences are going to be on the cloud. And in somewhere in the 6 to 10 year range, I think you'll have processors specifically built for this stuff. And then those will be able to do it really fast. But I think until then, like making one picture at a time on a smartphone would be so painful to me in comparison to like just like streaming in images as fast as you can see them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's going to get cheap. So basically the cloud will be, it's going to be farther ahead and it's going to be cheaper. And then you'll always be able to run things locally, but like it's going to be slower and way more expensive. So
do you think you'll allow 2x2 grids on the test models anytime soon?
we're going to have something that replaces the test models that will do big grids.
What do you think about the singularity? Like, when AI becomes smarter than humans?
I would say like I'm kind of like a transhumanist Taoist. I don't know, like I do believe in like the idea of people being better and that we can make people better. But I'm not like super obsessed with like making machines smart on their own. Meaning like, okay, stepping back. So like the guy who invented the word singularity, he had like a much more nuanced view that's been lost. Werner Vinge kind of was the one who started it. He actually wrote a beautiful paper in like the late 80s about about like the singularity. No, not Ray Kurzweil, total poser. It was all Werner Vinge. Werner Vinge basically said there's like 4 types of singularities. There is there's the AI singularity, which is that like AIs become, super smart. There's the like cyborg singularity, which is that people are smart and computers are smart and people and technology come together and they become superhuman. That's kind of where MidJourney is going. Like we're very much like people are good, technology's good, together we can create, like we can become better. And then he talks about there's two other ones. There's the biosingularity, which is like maybe we like tweak a few genes and all of a sudden like our brains are 4 times faster. We just have to drink more milkshakes. And then there is like the Gaia hypothesis, which is the idea that like if intelligence naturally arises out of complex systems, then maybe one day all of our computers network together, like the internet itself just like wakes up and it's like, dude. And he's like most scared of that one because like the internet could wake up and not tell us that it woke up. It could just be like,
tragedy.
I'm the internet, dude. Like I'm the internet. Holy shit. Like I better not tell anyone. And and of course there's a byproduct of the sort of Gaia hypothesis, which is that like individual computers could become so powerful that they might just start spontaneously waking up, or all of a sudden like corporations could become like sort of so smart and so fast that they just start waking up. So like they're kind of the Gaia hypothesis is also like a little bit of like a hive mind hypothesis, that we get these hive minds. And they just sort of start spontaneously forming. And so what Werner Vinci said was that he goes, okay, the reason why the singularity has to happen is because there's like 4 or 5 ways for it to happen. And if each one of them gets closer, like if AI gets better, then like the cyborgs get better and the hive minds get better and the bio gets better. Or if the bio gets better and like people get smarter through bio, then all of a sudden they're gonna make better AI and they're gonna make better cyborgs. The idea is like if any one thing gets better, it makes all the things better. And then if one of them actually fully happens, then like it's like dominoes, all of them happen really fast. And so he basically would say that like there's like 4 or 5 ways to get to the singularity. There's 4 or 5 types of singularities, and then any one of them pushes the other one further along. And if one happens, then all of them fall like dominoes. And so that was kind of his personal belief, and I think that's largely true. Werner Vinci actually would like to geek out and would say, what's more interesting than asking whether or not the singularity will happen is like how the singularity might not happen. And so he would talk about how like the ways the singularity could not happen is if the singularity needs like a lot of people to work together to figure something out, and we end up not being good enough at working together, then maybe it just never happens. Like if you need 10,000 smart people to work together to solve these problems, and maybe we're just not good enough working together, maybe it just never happens. Or maybe it requires like so much software that the software just like never works. But then on the flip side, the internet could just wake up one night and it might have nothing to do with anything we do. So yeah, there's like a very large spectrum of what could happen. And but I generally think that like I would say like generally I would say I'm generally on the area that I'm working on is in the idea of like people are great and technology is great, and if we bring them together, we should be able to be more than the sum of the parts. And so kind of like approaching this idea of like transhumanity and superhumanity through the use of like people and technology together. And to me, it's very much about like making people better. Like, yes, we can make things to replace people, but I don't really care about that. A lot of AI people in technology, they literally want to make God, and their philosophy is that like their philosophy is like mankind cannot save itself. The only thing that man can do is to create God, and God may choose to save man. And to me, that's totally fucked. Like, I don't like
That's
that.
cultish.
Yeah, well, no, but that's actually like a huge percent of AI people. Like, I don't know if it's the majority, but it's a very large percent. Basically, they
That's
believe
kind of scary.
it is
I've
scary.
actually read Life 3.0 because, like, what if they actually find something like that and they choose, like, okay, I'm gonna create a government now to rule the whole world, and like just do it covertly over like the next 50 years. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing is that, like, I mean, one of the things that we don't know yet is, like, how hard is it to create intelligent things without people? Like, how hard is it to create like a truly intelligent AI? And there's pretty much 2 philosophies. One philosophy says that it's extremely hard and it will require like brilliant people that are like artistic and like thoughtful and philosophical and have nuance. And then there's other people who think that like, oh well, nature isn't very smart and it made people, so I don't have to be very smart and I can probably make something smarter than people. So those are kind of the 2 different philosophies, and no one really knows. No one really knows what happens.
Yeah, I mean, maybe OpenAI will train like a 100 trillion model tomorrow when it will just be like sentient, but that's probably not happening, but like it could happen, like we just don't know.
Yeah, I would say that like right now, like I think they're kind of too like if I think that they'll either get somebody who's incredibly brilliant and they like figure out intelligence and I think it goes well, or you'll have like a bunch of really ignorant people like accidentally make intelligence and it will like swat them like flies. Yeah, like and so because like most of the people who want to build God, like I talk to them and I'm like, what do you want God to give you? and they usually don't know. I'm like, well, which God is it? Is God an American? Like, they don't know. They literally just want to build God, and they have no second level of like thought or intelligence about it. And so if someone like that built like a God, then the God would just look at them and I think like swat them away because of how shallow they are effectively. I don't think the God would care about them. So that's kind of my personal belief. But I do also think that there's a universe where somebody like really intelligent makes something that is also intelligent, and that it's like a more positive, like collaborative thing. And I think it's also possible that like maybe AIs eventually like grow and develop in sort of like some virtual augmented world with other humans, and then they kind of become human in the process of doing that. But yeah, I'm definitely not into the like fuck people, let's build God because only God can save man. That like it kind of pisses me off. It's like it's it kind of is like giving up on people. It's not believing in people. And it's like yeah, to me, like I don't know, like I'm kind of like I don't know, like I used to work in like I used to work in like I used to work at NASA. I used to do in space, and the general belief is that like the universe is so big that it kind of has and life is sort of so built of basic elemental things that the universe kind of has to be full of like of life. And if the universe is full of life, the universe is full of like technology and civilizations. And so like those like I kind of come from the space. I kind of come from the philosophy that like the universe is filled with like civilizations and minds and machines, and the only place where there are humans are here. And so the thing that's interesting is not so much like how do we build a machine that nobody else has built, but like how do we explore what humans can be, and like how can we be the greatest thing that we can be, because that's sort of the unique like journey that we have ahead of us. And yeah, there's a lot of people who literally just like want to build the biggest brain that the universe has ever had, and I usually tell them like, bro, you probably missed that one already. Like the universe has been around for 13 billion years, you know. This is probably not the first one to want that, but yeah, like how great can humans can be? I think that's something that like nobody knows, and I think like I want to find out how great humans can be and how great we can be, and that's like a personal journey and a group collaborative journey, and like that's like I think the real journey. Everything else is kind of almost like a form of nihilism or just like anti-humanism almost, I think. Sorry, that's my rant. You got me to rant.
No, I think it was a really cool philosophy. Actually, never heard anything similar before.
Yeah, I mean,
This
I kind of like the I kind of in some ways I think like I think that I feel like we kind of have to like transcend in a lot of ways to like fix a lot of our problems. But then I think when we fix a lot of our problems, we all just become like super chill and zen all the time. So like to some extent, like yeah, we have to remake things and go big and try really hard just so that we can then kind of just fully chill.
hopefully.
Yeah.
This actually ties really nice into my next question. How did you go from working at NASA to starting MidJourney?
Well, I guess the short or brief life story is I had like a design. I had like a design business in high school. Then I got a physics and math degree in college, and then I started working at NASA on laser radars, Mars missions, and atmospheric science. And I started doing neuroimaging at Max Planck. And then I was working on all these projects, and I decided that I was sort of overwhelmed, and I just wanted to work on one thing. So I decided to leave my PhD program and leave NASA, leave Max Planck, and I started a company called Leap Motion, which was this sort of like hardware software company that built these little devices that tracked hands and kind of invented the space of spatial interfaces and gesture control and a lot of virtual reality interface stuff that people use today. And then I sort of ran that as a company with like 100 people for 12 years. And now MidJourney is a new lab that I'm doing, which is to kind of build a small lab to do all the cool projects that I've wanted to do that are all sort of humanist themed projects. but crazy things for the next 10 years. And yeah, we have no investors. We kind of want to keep everything low key right now as we can. And yeah, just kind of keep really grounded. Yeah, I'm kind of low key about the Leap Motion thing. I know there's a lot of people who love Leap Motion. Like we had 300,000 software developers. We shipped 1 million hardware devices. We made open source AR headsets. We open sourced like 10 million lines of code that like powered a lot of the VR space for interaction. I learned a lot of lessons from that, to be honest, and I want to do a lot of things differently now. But yeah, I started MidJourney with very low ego. I like a lot of people like they start something and they're like, I'm Mr. So and so and I'm doing this, and I actually didn't even tell anybody that I was doing this. The only reason why actually I updated my bios because the like PR because like journalists were harassing the engineers trying to get like information. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll tell everybody that I'm running MidJourney, and then I updated my bio so that the journalists could harass me instead. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of this space is driven by egos, and you can watch out for that. Like, so, yeah, like people wanting to build God or people wanting to be famous, people wanting to raise lots of money, and I just want to make cool stuff with cool people that like help people and like help make the world better. Because like I want it to be better. Like I want to live in a better world. Maybe that's selfish, but like I want everyone else to live in a better world too. Like it should just be better, right? So I don't know. In some ways, I was a little kid and I would ask my parents like, why isn't this better? Why isn't this way? And like my parents really didn't know what to do. They're just like, well, maybe you should do that, David. I'm like, maybe I will. And I guess now I am.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. This is like my last question. You might remember that I have been training GPT models on the database, and I've actually got really sick models, and they could generate really good images, probably thanks to how MidJourney interprets text. And I don't know what to do with them. Do you have any suggestions?
I don't know. Maybe like DM me. We can talk about it later.
Okay.
Yeah, my DMs are open. Everybody don't abuse it too much.
Yeah, it was really nice talking to you.
You too.
Okay, I guess I'll DM you right now and I'll leave the stage for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, mate. Amazing, mate.
Wow.
I would ask for immortality. Yeah, if I had a god. Yeah, live forever, I think. Let me ask you a question. I'm quite kind of like a noob of this whole MidJourney thing. And I think it's kind of like confused for me to try all the features. So you're talking about seeds and things. I have been hearing you talking about all these things, and you got me confused. And I didn't know that you guys had a documentation because on Discord you only have a very quick start guide that goes directly to use Imagine, and then you create your first image. And I think I misread something, but I didn't find the docs at first. But then I found it, and it's amazing. And I want to thank you about all this work. And I want to ask you, do you guys have any API in mind to develop? Like if I want to use out of Discord, like doing REST requests, are you guys going to release something soon? Are you planning to do it? It'll be just Discord based. Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to do some API stuff at some point. It's going to be very different. It's going to be very different than everything else, but we will do it at some point. I think when we want to do, I think we wanted to like, yeah. It's definitely, yeah. It's on the list. It's on the top 10 list right now. Well, it's on the list. I don't know. It's in a reasonable area. I don't know if it's on the top 10.
Awesome. What if I want to use your platform to build a product in a business? I know that the guys they talk briefly about paying the commercial, whatever it is, and start using it. So if I use a bot because I see you have a tutorial, is that be fine on my side?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Like if I start using kind of faking it, your API, like making my side doing server requests, is there be a problem?
Kind of. I mean, it depends on what you're doing. Like, I think it's against the Discord terms of services, so Discord might kick you off. And then,
Okay.
if people like, and then if people abuse relax mode, we get really upset because like relax mode is there because it is a human doing it, and if somebody is like automating relax mode, it's just like unlimited losing us money.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I mean, for like small experiments, it's fine. And I would say I don't think we care if it's like a small experiment, but we don't really like it's not really built for that right now. So, you know.
Yeah, got it. And last question. In relation to you said before, our models are always changing, right? So you said that, and it got me asking because we have few limited options that you can use right now, and people, how do you know if it is a feature or a bug? Because okay, you change your models on your side. You also said that people don't know what they want, but sometimes people like some features that are actually bugs or vice versa. And how would you know? How would you weigh these things and say, okay, you are? I know because we had a feedback, but I didn't find anywhere in the platform where I could, I don't know, discuss about it. And by this talk, I have heard a lot of confusion of people saying, "Oh, the chaotic is like that," and they say, "No, it's like that." And how can bring the community closer to MidJourney to have more to say in regards to these model changes, if we had any say in that?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that right now.
Okay.
But we definitely try to get. You can definitely leave feedback in the feedback channel anytime, and official features should be documented, and we try to. And you can and like the rating stuff definitely helps the system. That's probably the only three things we have right now to. Or people can like apply at the careers at midjourney.com, of course. But the system is pretty complicated, so it's hard to involve a lot of people in it.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for your work, mate. Amazing work. And you're a nice guy. I love your brains. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hi, David. So my question is, you talked a bit about leap motion, your history with leap motion, and I was wondering, how has creating and developing MidJourney differed for you from when you made your first startup, Leap Motion? Has it been harder, easier, unexpected challenges? Like what? Yeah, just how have they been different?
Well, I started Leap Motion when I was, I think, 22 years old, 21, 22 years old.
So super young.
Yeah, I had a co-founder who had already done 3 businesses that I'd known since I was like 8 years old. So I had a co-founder. I was very young, and I had a co-founder who was also very young but very experienced. And so I think there were a lot of things that neither of us knew. I think when you're young, you sometimes feel that intelligence is all that matters, or beauty is all that matters, or like athleticism is all that matters. But it kind of turns out that like no matter how much of any of those things you are, like no matter how smart you are, like everybody makes the same dumb mistakes. Because sometimes the universe just isn't what you might rationally expect it to be.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, like, you hear all these cliches, people saying the same thing over and over again, and so you kind of assume that it's not real. Like, oh, that's so cliche. Like, invest in people. That's so cliche. But then you realize as you get older that the reason why everybody says the same thing is not because everybody tries to say the same thing, but because it's actually true.
Ah. Mm.
And like, there's a lot of interesting things like that I don't know, that I feel like you just learn with age. Kind of like
Right.
then learning to, like, in some ways respect the mistakes that other people made, because like very often the mistakes that people make are not dumb. They were completely reasonable mistakes people made from being intelligent people with the information they had.
Yeah.
So and also, like, maybe trying to look at less about what's right or wrong, but like what's inspiring.
Ah.
So, like, I would, like, there are many times, like, for example, at Leap Motion, we like, for the first 3 or 4 years we didn't use any neural networks. And I remember there was a PhD guy, and he was like, maybe we should use neural networks. And I'm like, why should we use neural networks? He's like, I don't know, they're hot right now. And I'm like, that's a bad reason. And he was right, though. Like, we should have
Ah.
used them earlier, but because he had a bad reason, I didn't listen to him. And
Mm.
and so I kind of was overly rational, I think, in general, when I was younger. And that's so interesting because, like, most intelligent people, like, they're intelligent through the ability of being rational. But the problem with reason is that you tend to overemphasize the things you know rather than things that you don't know. But very often the things you don't know are actually more important.
Ah.
And so, yeah. And so there are a lot of things like that where it's like, I know that's not a good reason, so I'm not going to listen to that. Well, it not being a good reason isn't matter. What it is that, like, that it's a thing. It's like you could be inspired by it. Like, oh, maybe we should check it out if it's, like, we should, like, how does it work? Like, why does it work well? Like, yeah, like the yes and asking questions. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's so many things as a person that I've changed. I was, like, a lot more shy. I was a lot more conflict averse. But
Mhm.
maybe moving outside of myself a little bit, like how it's more different in a more objective way, is like, yeah, if you there's probably, if there's a lot of young people out there and you feel like people don't trust you, but you like to work on quick projects, one of the advantages of, like, working on a project for 10 years is then when you want to work on the second project, everybody trusts you. Everyone's like, oh, this person is like a technologist. Oh, this person works for a long time. Like, this person is consistent. Like, we can trust them. And so, like, the first time I built Leap Motion, like, it was weird and nobody knew who I was and they didn't really know what to think about it. And it was hard to start it. Whereas with MidJourney, I could go to a big tech company and I could be like, hi, I'm David and I need 10,000 servers, please. And they would be like, okay, this is like, David needs 10,000 servers. Get this guy 10,000 servers. And like, I could have never done that if I was 21 or 22. And so that's kind of cool. And then on top of that, like, I don't know, I have the confidence to do things on my, like, I had the confidence to, I mean, yeah, have the confidence to kind of stand my ground more, I think, is another thing that's really hard. Like,
How do you mean?
Yeah, it's sort of, how should I say, it's like, I feel like when you're young, you will, like, you're either gonna be you'll either stand your ground on everything because you're, because you're stubborn, or you're just like, you give you a pushover really easily. And I think sometimes as you get older, it gets easier to have better judgment on like, and better confidence around standing your ground because you have more things to reference to. I don't know. There's definitely, like, an element of like, it was so hard when I was 23, I had an executive working for me who previously worked for Steve Jobs, right?
Oh.
And so he would be like, well, Steve did this or Steve did that, or he'd say, oh, Steve, or, oh, Steve told me that too. Like, there was one conversation where he was literally like, I said something and he's like, yeah, Steve said stuff like that. And I was like, shut up, Andy. And he goes, Steve said that too. You know, and it's like kind of just fucks with you to have people around you saying shit like that all the time,
Yeah.
and you don't really know what's true or what's not, and and they'll be like, David, I've been doing this for 30 years and this, and it's just like hard to know when to stand your ground,
Right.
and like who to listen to, and I think that's something that like, I don't know, that's yeah, so I don't know. MidJourney is kind of interesting where like I could start it. I felt good about starting it in an unconventional way, and people trust me, so I didn't have to raise money for it, and then could kind of like hold my ground against all the weird and distracting things happening in the space, and push for big and push for like being in integrity and like pushing for stuff that's good for people and stuff that matters, and be like, you know, like I don't know. There was a lot of weird things that Leap Motion did that we're also doing here, but like there's just so many areas to talk about. Like a great example actually is at Leap Motion, I was sort of so humble that I didn't want to build any products. I just wanted to build something that was important, like user interfaces. I was like, user interfaces are important. I don't need to build products though. Like, so let me just build a good user interface stuff, and I'm going to work with other people to build good products. And then it turned out that like most people don't know how to make products, and then and a lot of people are kind of like slave owner mindset. Like, I will only work with you if I can own you. And like there's very like a lot of competition, a lot of egos, and a lot of like anti-competitiveness in technology. And so it was actually really hard. Like I built really wonderful user interface stuff, but like yeah, but then like big tech companies would come to me and they'd be like, David, I love your hand tracking, and so we're going to try to buy you, and if you don't take our offer, we're going to destroy you.
Oh my God.
And then there was another big tech company that goes, give us all of your code or we'll just steal all of your employees. That's our offer.
What? Jesus.
And like, so like that, and that was sort of normal things that we would like happen all the time. And like, I mean, we had like we had like the Chinese government breaking into the Leap Motion office in the middle of the night, like scaling the rooftops, and like vans with antennas outside of our office. Like I had like some weird shit that happened. Actually, I don't know if it's the Chinese government, so let's just say I didn't say that. But you know what? If they did break into our office, that's totally okay. You know, any government can break into our office. You know what, governments, if you want to break into our office, you go ahead and do that. You know, I'm not going to say that. Like, I'm fine with that, really. I'm not going to fight a government. Governments are good. We should have governments. But you get weird, like you start getting industrial espionage, like it gets really weird, and I didn't really know how to handle any of that.
No, who does? I mean, and you were also so young.
22,
Like
yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite stories, maybe I'm going off topic here, but just for shits.
No,
like,
but it's wonderful.
One of my favorite stories was we had somebody outside our office in the middle of the night with like a shopping cart and antennas and like a laptop. And it was, I walked by him, it was like 1 a.m. and I kind of like lost it. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is too much. And I went into the office and there were other people at the office at like 1 a.m. And because that's what San Francisco used to be like. And I was like, guys, this is person outside of our office with a shopping cart and antennas and a laptop, and there's all this code going on it. And this is fucking bullshit. Let's all go outside here and surround the fucker. We're gonna take our smartphones out and demand to know what's happening. And so like we got like 8 of us like surrounded the guy with our smartphones out. And he started like being like, who are you guys? We're like, who are you? He's like, are you from Leap Motion? We're like, what if we are? Like, what are you doing? And eventually he just kind of get more and more nervous until he actually started breaking down and he started crying. He's like, guys, I'm just from a startup next door. We're doing a radio startup and we're not FAA approved. We don't have the FDA approval yet. And don't tell anyone. We're just testing our radio. Like, don't get me in trouble. And we're like, oh my God, we're the evil guys. We felt so bad. But like, obviously there were other times where like, you know, people were literally breaking into our office and going through our servers. And so like, you know, it kind of, there's a whole spectrum where you never really know what's going on. Yeah, like there was one guy who just walked into the Leap Motion office one day with like a big camera, and he just like walked past the thing and they're like, can I help you? He started taking photos of everything and like zooming in and like, sir, what are you doing? He said, he keeps walking and taking more photos, and eventually they go, I'm going to call the cops. He keeps walking in, they go, I'm calling the cops. And he goes, okay. And then he walks out.
Oh
like,
my
things get
god.
really weird. So like, there's all this weird shit that happens, and like, I'm 22. It's like, how do I fucking deal with any of this?
Oh no.
And like, at
Yeah.
some point, you kind of like, you learn to live with it. Like, you kind of get chill, and like, you just like chill the fuck out. I don't know, like, but like, I don't even know where to start. But like, I had so many experiences in my 20s from all this that like nothing really scares me anymore. Nothing is really that weird to me anymore. And like, but luckily people trust me, and so I can say like, we're gonna do crazy stuff, and we're gonna hold our ground, and we're gonna do the right thing. And like, yeah. And the other thing though is like, I'm not going to make part of a technology anymore and then rely on like a company to build a product for us. I'm going to
How
just
do you
build
mean?
some, like this is a big thing. A lot of mistake people make is they're like, I'm gonna make an API, or I'm gonna make a platform. And like, you know what? It's like, no, I want to make something that's good that people enjoy using. And then people can pay for that. And then if they like it, like that'll get us to make it better, and it's just like, we're just gonna keep making good things. And it's like very simple. And like, there's sort of nothing that can get in the way of it.
Awesome.
Whereas like before, we like invented like one of the major user interface stuff for VR, but when people like, but if like, then you have to work with all the VR headset makers. If they don't come out with a VR headset this year, just nothing comes out. You can't get anything to people this year.
Oh.
So like, it's cool that like, we don't have to work through anybody. We just make things, so we can update a new model every month, and we just directly give it to you all who enjoy using it. And if you like it, you can pay for it. It's just like really nice and simple. Whereas like, if I was trying to make an API platform, then like all I could do is update my API, and then I'd have to like hope somebody makes it into something that somebody else can use, And like, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, so I don't know. I'm definitely more around making products this time rather than parts of a product. Like, we're gonna make products that people like to use, and we're gonna, and that's sort of the more important thing. Like, we just have to try to make good stuff and just get it out to the people, and like
That's
not
awesome.
let anything stand in our way. And so that's probably like the biggest thing. And I think like we will have platform stuff, we will have APIs, but the idea is that like, we're not gonna be reliant on that to like exist,
Yeah.
And we're not going to be reliant on investors. We're not going to be reliant on API money, and we're just going to like be reliant on having stuff that people like using, really.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a better place to be. And it's kind of unusual because out here nowadays, it's like mostly about raising a lot of money, like saying like, look, I made something great. That means that I'm great. So give me lots of money. And then you get like $100 million. Then you're just burning money in like a furnace every day.
It certainly seems that way, like looking from the outside, that's a lot of the focus at the moment.
Yeah, it becomes a bad game because what happens is like, you end up burning a bunch of money, and then you're not making money, but you're spending money, and then you need more money. So then it becomes a question of like, okay, how do I set money on fire in the way to make me seem as important as possible so I can get more money? And so basically it becomes this like weird cycle of people trying to like say how important they are in exchange for more investor money without actually creating value for anybody.
Right.
And so,
but you're like moving away from that.
Yeah. Like I'm going to try to make money. I'm going to try to make money to support like a business and like engineers and a team based off of our stuff being useful and enjoyable to real human beings.
That's honestly kick-ass. I mean, that's
like,
really awesome.
It's great if investors like it, but I don't want to make something for investors.
Yeah, you're making things for people. Am I understanding correctly?
For people. Yeah, and if investors like it, it's that hopefully because they're people, not because they're investors.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, it's kind of so we'll see. I mean, I like they're investors trying to give us money, and like, but I don't even know what I would do with that. Like, you can't just like, it's like, because I don't have a pile of money that I'm burning right now. They're like, here, take our pile of money, burn it. I'm like, I don't have anything to burn it for. They're like, just burn it, damn it. Take the money and burn it. And I'm like, I don't know what to burn it for. Like, it's fun burning money. It feels good. Like it's really, or some of them are like, take our pile of money and just, you know what? It's not about the money. It's about having us to talk to you every day. And I'm like, do I want to talk to you all every, like, like if you want to talk to me every day, let's talk every day, like, but why do you have to hand me all this money, like, And so like, I don't know, maybe one day we will need a lot of money to do something, and then maybe we'll take something. But I literally like, I think that's a challenge still. Like, yeah, like it's kind of funny. Like I heard somebody at Google once tell me this. He goes, David, it's easy making $1 billion. You know what's hard is spending $1 billion. And I was like, really? And like on some level, that seemed ridiculous. On another level, like it's also kind of true that if you want to spend $1 million in a month, it's actually kind of hard to spend like if you have like 1,000 people, it's easy to spend. You can give each of them $1,000, and that's $1 million. Like that's easy. But if you have like 10 people, how do you spend $1 million? Like it's actually kind of hard. So
I've never thought about that. That's like
yeah.
Now that you say it.
Well, also like when we have money right now, like we don't like I don't want to buy a giant ice sculpture or something. Like I want to spend the money to make MidJourney better. And so like right now, like we do have some money, we can hire a bunch of people, but like we want to find the right people. We want to like get some good data, like, and we want to, use bigger supercomputers and do more research. And I'm probably going to do some weird hardware stuff soon. Like we're going to build some crazy weird hardware stuff even. Like let's do some crazy stuff. But stuff that can help, that can kind of go back into MidJourney,
So to use it thoughtfully for like that, so it has a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I try to do everything with purpose. Like I don't know. There are a lot of people who are like they don't really do things with purpose, and like that's cool. Like I get that, but I just don't work that way. Like I have to. I can't even go on a walk if I don't have somewhere to go to walk to. Like it's pretty bad. Like I can't. Like, I should just walk around the street like once a day just to get outside, but I can't. Like I have to go. Like unless I have somewhere to go, like I can't.
That sounds pretty extreme.
Yeah, I know. It's not healthy. I will admit to that. It's a problem that I'm working on. But like I'm very purposeful with whatever I do. So like yeah, like I usually walk. Like I usually have to like walk to get food because like the food is outside of my house. Like some stupid reason. Like I'm gonna go walk to Like it's like I'll make up a reason, but the reason still has to be there. It's also why I don't go on vacations because like it's not a good enough reason. Like I want to see the Eiffel Tower. I guess not really. But if there's a business meeting, then like I'll fucking fly anywhere.
Oh, okay. So food gets you out of the building and like
food meetings.
Like
Food and people. Food and people. Yeah.
All right. So I take from like your answer from what you're saying that starting Leap Motion, like you started very young and growing up making that company or doing all of those things taught you like crazy stuff and confidence and not to try to be the best or always go for rationale, to also just go for what feels interesting and good and exciting for you. And to have more confidence. Is that correct? I don't know if I'm summarizing.
Well, that's pretty good. Yeah. Like there's a nice feeling thing there, which I should probably talk about, which is like there's a really beautiful lesson that one of my mentors told me at one point, that he goes like, a lot of smart people like to think that the purpose of thinking is to tell you why your feelings are wrong. And that's not what it's for. What you should be doing is you'd be trying to feel out what feels good, what feels right, and then think on how to actually make that happen. Like the thinking is to try to make the good feelings like possible. It's not to tell you that the feelings are wrong. And so very often what I would be like, well, I don't feel like I like this product that I'm making at Leap Motion, but like this, I'm thinking this is the right thing to do, and like that's bullshit. So it's very much about like trying to align the thinking and the feeling is like so much better. And there's so many people who build stuff that like nobody cares about because they were trying to think about what they should build instead of feeling what they should build. And like, I don't know, there's something there that's really important that I didn't get. I mean, Leap Motion was built that way. Like, that's why it was cool, because like I felt that I wanted to build it. But then like over time, a lot of things were like, we have investors, we have to do this, and this became very thinky, and we were kind of building a lot of the wrong things,
Okay, yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I never really wanted another thing is I never really wanted a company. I think I just sort of wanted a home. And at some point, like having some giant like corporation with like hundreds of millions of dollars and dozens of investors. It's not really a home. It's like more of like a job type of thing. And so I definitely MidJourney is meant to be more of a home than like some big job corporate place, you know?
Yeah, that sounds really beautiful to like pursue a place that feels like home.
Yeah.
And a project like that.
Yeah. So I have a lot of like homey projects. Yeah. I hope trying to make a home for other people too. There's something that I've kind of like realized is like when you make a home for yourself, you make a home for others. If you make a job for yourself, you're making jobs for others, you know, like
yeah.
You know, so I'm kind of hoping that by trying to create that home for myself, I'm kind of creating a community for others. And that's like another one of the beautiful things about doing the community thing that I'm very hopeful about, actually. And
It
so
sounds like you're really succeeding. Like a lot of people have gotten so much from MidJourney. So I think you're doing exactly what you're hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's really wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm like, I know a lot of people have questions. I could go like listen forever. But
No problem.
yeah,
Thank
I
you for
think
asking good questions.
yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
So what I'm curious about is how you plan on keeping the model updated with
You're a bit garbled. It's very hard to understand what you're saying.
I'm hard to hear. Thank you for letting me know. Am I still hard to hear?
A little better.
Mm-hmm. I can have the thing in my phone.
It almost sounds like you're on a microphone that's on the wrong side of the room.
Computer. And then I'm going to pieces. And if I sound better now, then that's what's going on. But I couldn't enjoy that other one. That's what you did that computer, though. That might actually be a better idea.
I think maybe you're on the wrong microphone. It sounds like you're like it's like going through your phone, which is on the couch, but you have a Bluetooth headset on the other side of the room. It just sounds like you're very far away.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, now it's great. There you go.
Oh,
Wow.
fantastic. Okay, switch computers. Excellent. Now my notes are on the other side of the room. So let me, I just got them pulled up. It's fine. I'm curious about how you're planning on keeping the model updated with cultural references moving forward. Back like during beta in Show and Tell, we tried to make Stranger Things actress Sadie Sink, and the model clearly didn't know who she was. And you've mentioned in this office hours, and I think somebody else had mentioned that the model is about 3 years out of date. So that makes sense because she wasn't really relevant until recently because of the show Stranger Things. So since MidJourney is a tool that relies on our capability to communicate, and the way we communicate ideas largely depends on relating things of cultural significance, it seems important for the training to keep up with culture, whether it's a new art style, TV show, movie stars, popular games. If the training's outdated or incomplete, it becomes more difficult to communicate our ideas through it as a tool. So my question for you today is, how do you see that training being maintained going forward? And do you expect to kind of close that training gap over time?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been thinking more about adding training data from history than adding training data from the last year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's like a lot of incredible sources of history that are not in the data set that would add a lot of visual, like there's a lot of like history of like the visual medium that's like not in the data set. And so I've been thinking more about adding that, but recent things is interesting. I honestly always have mixed feelings about like doing pictures of actors and actresses. Like it's cool, but like it's kind of on the line, you know, of like it can easily be good or bad.
Sure. I know
So-
some people. I know some people use like multiple actresses, or
Oh,
just to
that's
kind of
cool.
get to like communicate an idea of what a person would look like, right? Like I was working on somebody, and I was like, I wanted to look kind of like Jodie Comer, but also kind of like Kendall Jenner at the same time, right? So I get like a certain kind of hair and a certain kind of face, and I want them to be blonde. And like if you combine that or like combine artists, right, it kind of gives you the ability to create a new style or a new look.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's how it's used best. Yeah, I'm always like, it would be very easy for us to like keep up to date on actors and actresses if we wanted to. I think the main question is like, at some point, do we put down any rules for like making Danny DeVito art or something?
Right.
Which is heartbreaking for me because I like the Danny DeVito art, but then the Emma Watson art, like a lot of the Emma Watson stuff bothers me.
Uncomfortable zone. Yeah.
Like there are too many kids that were clearly too horny for Emma Watson when they were kids. and now they're like 30 or whatever, but like I don't know. Like whatever, you can be 30. There's nothing wrong about that. But there's something about like there's certain areas where it's been really interesting to actually see like how people treat different sort of figures, public figures.
Mhm. I know that like just as an example of like an actress, like I really liked the new Sabrina TV show, right? And I wanted to try to use the actress who was in that, and I realized that the model was trained because she's been an actress for a long time, was trained when all the images that were available of her were as a child. And so I was like, I'm going to stay away from that zone. That becomes uncomfortable very quickly. But I've noticed that when you're working with an older actor, if you asked for like a younger version of them, it does tend to like know what that looks like, which I thought was kind of neat.
I haven't been able to. I was like, people. Maybe I could ask people just to like put the pictures in instead, like use image prompts. So do like the images of the people you like, rather than just knowing all their names. I honestly don't know what to do. Like this has been like it's kind of a challenge. Like I like your reasons of like mixing people together.
Like, I mean, if you're talking about somebody, right? Like if I was trying to describe myself, I might say like, oh, I kind of look like this actress and this person, but I've got this color hair and my nose is more like this person's, right? Like you don't have a good vocabulary to describe a specific type of nose or a specific type of chin, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's totally legit. I just yeah, so I haven't really thought of like because making pictures of celebrities was bothering me more often than it was making me feel good. I wasn't thinking about updating those more often, but like it would be very easy to update that stuff more often. It's interesting to think about. It's probably something we should do at some point. I think the question is just going to be like, do we put any rules down, basically, around like how people use names of people like that? You know?
Yeah, I'd made an image of an actual actress. Like I was literally just like testing to see if MidJourney knew what she looked like. I'm like, oh, that's a really pretty image. And somebody approached me and asked me if they could sell it as an NFT. And I said, no, but also I would feel incredibly uncomfortable with somebody not only selling my art with an NFT, but like making profit off of somebody else's likeness. Like that seems like a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. So I think that like we should definitely be increasing like the current event stuff knowledge, but I haven't really like there's at some point there's definitely like rules that we probably should have, but I don't know what they should be. We thought about just like literally just saying like a respectful rule, like if people are obviously disrespectful to the likeness of another person, we'll just like ban you or something, you know, like something that like involves personal judgment. I think we were meaning to do that. We haven't added it yet, but we were gonna do something like that. But like there's like obviously like Danny DeVito as the Terminator, like that's probably cool, right? I guess
I think
right?
so.
Then,
I mean,
like,
there's legal precedent, like people like there's been people who've made like basically fan art and sold it. There was one of like Tiger Woods, right? Like an artist painted a portrait of Tiger Woods, and he was like, that's memorable, that's sports memorabilia, and the judge was like, no, that's art, that's fine, like you can do that. I don't know how that would play out here. Obviously, it hasn't come up, but I think there's some like ethical, like we're making like fan art basically at that point. It's not.
Yeah, but then like on the flip side, like we have had certain figures where people like almost entirely use their likeness in negative ways, and that like freaks out the moderators a bit, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Like,
and I think,
go ahead.
I think you've created a good community here, like. The moderators and like the way people work, most of the time I think people are working with like good intentions.
Oh
right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like like the bad contents is definitely like 1 out of every 10,000 users or something. And the only challenge that I might get like hundreds of thousands of people joining a day sometimes. But it's pretty rare on the whole.
Do you find that like bad content or like that might be coming more from like people who are new or who are just kind of exploring what those boundaries are, or might not even realize that it's like a public space?
So the trial users definitely do bad stuff more often, and we ban them actually very
Right.
quickly, like without warnings even sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I would say that paid users, they are usually never bad unless they're like a YouTuber trying to create the most like offensive image possible for their YouTube channel, so they can like create controversy, which literally has happened.
Oh, jeez.
And then, or somebody with like really unusual fixations, like Emma Watson, or like close-up macro photo of sweaty biceps.
Yikes.
And like,
so
you know,
it's mostly you're seeing people who are like either clout farming or just like really perverse specific interests that they can't find content for elsewhere.
yeah. And it's never like somebody who's really into like sweaty biceps and Emma Watson. It's always
Thank
like
God.
one thing or another thing. It's always like it's always extremely specific.
Well, David, I didn't mean to get us onto the topic of
Oh,
sweaty
that's
Emma
fine.
Watson biceps, but
I mean,
thank you
that
so
would
much
be
for.
interesting if you knew. I mean, there's definitely been some people who are like really into like extraordinarily muscular, like like it's there's like I've definitely seen some unusual. Like it's always interesting like to kind of imagine the stories of each person, you know? Like
Mhm.
there's definitely a story going on everywhere.
Right, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
that's yeah. I mean, I work in marketing. Like that's an important part. Like understanding, like kind of like what drives people, right? Like
Yeah.
what brings people here and what drives them to do the things they're doing. So
Yeah. I definitely think we haven't had very many issues on people doing just lots of muscles. Actually, it's been that's I think that's one of the more innocent but strange things that our moderators sometimes squint really hard at. Like one time they came to me and they're like, "David, we found somebody with 10,000 pictures of close-up sweaty muscles. Is this okay?" And I'm just
What is-
like, well, like I don't really know what this person. I don't really know what's going on, but it's not offensive. It's PG-13. They're just sweaty muscles. It just like really close up, like a close up picture of a bicep. Like, yeah, I guess. Some of them are really challenging, you know.
I feel like AI kind of like gives us like a superpower, right? In this way, like we can create like anything, and it's really interesting to think of the person who's going to use that power to create hundreds of images of close-up sweaty muscles. I find that fascinating.
Honestly, like maybe he had a job where it was like a product shot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, don't be sweaty, you know, use a moisture wipe. And maybe he just needed like this perfect picture of a close, like maybe it was actually like his job, you know? We don't know what it was.
Absolutely. It could be anything. Like if all of a sudden I needed to sit here and like churn out tiles and it was nothing but like corn tiles, I might have a very specific reason for that. Like maybe I'm selling them on Redbubble or something.
Yeah, you could be a corn farmer.
Yeah, I could be corn farming.
So we try not to be too judgy, but definitely but yeah, I've been really interested in like a lot of the, like, for example, like Art Deco is really cool. And like, you know, what if we were like 10x better at Art Deco? Like that's kind of, I've been thinking more about that more type of stuff. Like these huge artistic movements that like maybe everybody loves, but isn't actually in the data set that much, you know?
Yeah,
And like
exactly.
that would be really beautiful, you know, and like the ability to kind of merge these huge art movements and kind of bring them into the future, you know, is kind of an interesting opportunity.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because absolutely having that like lexicon of information like that maybe the model wasn't trained on, like where we can communicate what we're looking for, it would help so much. And I'm glad that you had the opportunity to just talk to you a little bit about it. But
of course,
I'll let somebody else go now. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for the office hours, and I wanted to thank you for opening up this tool in the way that you have too. I've only tried one other AI image generator named Dolly, And my experience is I think that MidJourney is better in a lot of ways, especially like the openness of the team, doing these office hours, licensing, and the community too. The community engagement is awesome.
Thank you.
So I wanted to give a little feedback, and then
I would say I think all the teams in the space are trying to do very different things, and sometimes it seems like they're similar, but I think over time the differences will be more and more pronounced, and it's kind of exciting to actually see everyone branch out more.
yeah, cool. I think that what you guys are doing is going to be disruptive in the industry, and that's kind of in like a lot of different industries. And that was kind of what I wanted to ask about, because I think right now it's like experimentation phase. And my thought is that if you want to be at the forefront of industry disruption, then you kind of need to be able to do something really, really well. So my like the way that I view it is, and this is just after like 1 month of using it, so I'm kind of a noob, but it seems like MidJourney is really, really good at creating awesome concept art, like fun concepts, creative weird stuff, photorealism, but it starts to lack when you start to really tighten the constraints. So like here's one example, which is what I've been trying to do, and this hopefully will help you to frame your response. There's this application where hundreds of thousands of daily users will color in color by number online. And so I want to generate like thousands of paint by number illustrations. So the constraints are kind of simple, real flat, solid colors and strong, bold outlines. So my experience, and again, this is only after a month, but it's that the AI can almost do it, but it's not quite there. And so I imagine there's other people that have experienced this same thing where, it's like, the tool is almost the most epic, life-changing, like industry disrupting tool ever, but not quite there yet. So the question is for you and for the team, have you thought about these, like an approach to improvement with regard to specific applications or commercial spaces to where it's like it's almost there, but not quite? Is that just a limitation of training set, data, algorithm complexity, or is the technology like just not quite there yet?
You mean in terms of like tweaking it details, or just getting the details right on the first shot for certain areas?
Yeah, just like like the goal, I think, for most people would be you tell it what you want, and you get like a perfectly usable exact thing back. You tell it, for my example, I want flat, solid colors, no gradients. I want strong, bold lines, and then it does exactly that. So my experience is that like it always needs a bunch of someone to manually come in and edit the image, modify it. It's just it doesn't quite understand all of the constraints when you get to a really low level.
Yeah, I think we're definitely trying to make MidJourney more of a medium of exploration than like a way to produce an image that you then sell to a client. You know what I mean? Like it's more of I think we're definitely trying to make more of an explorative tool. I think that's the exploration thing I think is more fun. And I think we're a little bit more focused on fun, to be honest. I think we do want to make things that are more productive, but I definitely think that we have to choose our battles, because like productivity is a black hole that will like consume all of our attention and time and money, and it will not necessarily give us anything back in return. Kind of like how like you could have like really good, like it's almost like the note-taking movement, right? Like you could like they had all these note-taking tools and you could be super productive and you could write everything down, but then you don't actually get anything done and no one's actually happy or having fun. So like there's a little bit of a risk, I think, with the productivity stuff, that it could kind of destroy all the fun and beauty of it. But but like to the extent that we can make that work sort of for free, I think we want it to work. Like we want it to get better at understanding your words. We want it to have a better vocabulary. We want it to have more images in it. And to the extent that those things can make things better, I think we want that. In terms of like trying to be really careful about it, like getting long lists of things right, I don't really care about that as much because yeah, I still find that I can create things that are like mind-bogglingly beautiful and beyond my pretty decent imagination by just having like 2 words and a huge grid of images. And like to me, that's more interesting. Yeah, like a lot of great artists say that like they don't know what they're going for and they're trying to find it, you know, like trying to free the statue from the stone, you know. And I think that the explorative process to creation is, I think, a lot more like appealing to me. I think like whether or not that's like the best business or whether or not that helps with everybody, that could be a separate question. But I definitely am the sort of explorative process, like creation through exploring rather than like creation through like really, really fine, like turning knobs really good and having just the right word. Like, yeah. Maybe it's like almost like exploration versus craft. I would definitely say I'm more on the exploration side than on the craft side. But I definitely think that to the extent that we can have craft that doesn't like for free, we're gonna build a lot of craft in it too.
Yeah, and I think that for craft too, just real quickly, is that, you know, like I'm not really, my goal is not to like, you know, get this thing to create free art. I'm like thinking like it'd be awesome, dude, if people that want to do this example, like they want to color stuff in, they literally just type in like, what do you want to color? Oh, I want to color Shrek like in the swamp, like riding a horse, pole vaulting, it's, you know, and then they get an image and they just color it in. Like that'd be so cool. And I think that really the issue is not that, you know, you're trying to like tighten down these controls and stuff, but it's like more of can you get the AI now or like in a short period of time to where you can create these like tight constraints for your image and get it to give you what you want.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's possible, but it's like it's a bit of a black hole. So I'm probably I will avoid a black hole to some extent because it will not let me do all the other things I want to do. So I think like whenever we get something like it for free, I will take it. But I basically have to avoid anything that will suck up the entire energy of MidJourney. And like the thing that sucks up the entire energy is like, here are like 100 examples with like 30 properties each, and we want to make sure they get all 30 things right and all 100 things. And it's just, that's really, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of it will get better for free. I would say that. So it's not our focus, but I think a lot of it gets better for free as we just make it better at language. So right now, the current system is actually not very good at language, and it's going to get a lot better at language.
Mark, you're up. If you're talking, we cannot hear you.
I can hear him.
Oh, you can? Huh.
Yeah. I can hear him, so I can answer the question. I'll just repeat it. So I was asking a bit about how does an image prompt work? So when you put image prompts work for V1, V2, V3, and HD. If you put a URL to an image in there, it will like turn the image kind of into the same sort of thing as like words get turned into. So it kind of like turns the images into words, but without actually turning it into words. And then it tries to use that to influence the image. Yeah, yeah. So when you show it something like that, it's gonna see whatever it can see. And so like if it sees the planes, it's gonna draw planes, but if it doesn't know what an airport from above looks like, it's not gonna see that. So it kind of like will see what it recognizes and then make that. So in some ways, like it draws when you show it an image prompt is a wet way of what it knows. Well, it's not trying to copy them very closely. It's trying to be more be like inspired by them, and what it sees may be different than what you see. Kind of like how its understanding of a word may be different than your understanding of a word. So part of it is trying to like getting good at image prompts is partially about like building an intuition for how it sees images. And it's challenging. It's actually not that easy. It's definitely one of the most advanced features. Yeah, it's not really meant for creating variations of a single image. It's more of creating of like dropping a bunch of different images in with the words to kind of get the vibe to get like a bunch of vibes. It's more of like you're trying to get vibes of different things and put them together than it is about trying to actually create more of an image. Um, yeah, we're not actually sure if we want to do one where it creates more of an image because it can be kind of used to like whitewash copyright content. Yeah. I mean, there isn't really like a legal issue. It's just like maybe a moral issue. I like so for example, like if you want Dolly has a variation feature where if you give it a picture, it will just exactly duplicate it and give you different variations. So you can do it on Dolly, but we've kind of avoided that feature. We don't really like the idea of creating almost like photo filters almost or like yeah, we're definitely more it's more about the explorative and creative process. So I would try to imagine it as vibes. Like take the vibes of three images you like, and then it'll give you the vibes of those three things together. That's I think more what it's meant to be used for. Like think of it as vibe rather than as trying to get a specific thing. And if you want it to be a specific style, maybe better to try to describe the style with words. Yeah, I don't think he's asking questions about graphic design and any particular styles. I don't think I can exactly answer it. I think that there's a great channel called Prompt Craft. There's a forum called Prompt Craft in the prompt chat rooms, and I would try dropping images into there and seeing what people think. And we're gonna try to build something soon where you can drop images into the system, and it'll help you understand better how to make images like that. So we'll have tools in the future that'll make it easier too. Cool. So sorry about that, everyone. I know a lot of people couldn't hear it. It sounded like I was talking to myself, but we'll like give another shot.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear
you. Okay. So I'm following MidJourney since about a month and a half, and it was really great seeing it evolve and grow over time with office hours. And I'll also hear you talk about award upgrade quite often. I find it quite fascinating with all the technical and technological upgrade. So I'm wondering what kind of environmental impact would something like MidJourney have? Do you have an idea about that?
Sorry, are you asking us what kind of impact MidJourney will have in general, or I'm not sure if I understand.
What kind of environmental impact? Like the impact of all the servers, etc., in electrical consumption, CO2, and things like that.
Are you saying environmental impact?
Yes. Sorry if
we're using green data centers that are like powered by clean energy, so I think at the moment we're okay. In general, I would say data centers are pretty clean. Like maybe the Ethereum ones are not clean. They're like Ethereum ones built next to coal power plants. But most of the large tech companies have a lot of, green, positive people and executives. So the data centers are pretty good on the whole, I would say.
Okay, I did not really have information about that, but it's nice to know that there are people thinking about the tax aspect and all.
Yeah. I also think it's like, I think I also, I think it's probably, I'm very like pro, yeah, the data centers are very clean. I think I probably have like other opinions that like, the best way to a great civilization is through building things rather than building less things. So like, we're probably going to have to pollute a bit to build a utopia, but then, and the utopia will have tons of robots and they'll clean everything up. Like I kind of hope that, like the ends justify the means to some extent. But yeah, I mean, that'll be one day we have way more computers. Probably right now there's no issue. Yeah.
Well, I also kind of have the same mindset of going more in technology rather than just stopping consumption, etc.
Yeah.
But I find it really nice that you actually think about it, even with all the other things you have to do. Because
Yeah, I'm very lucky that the main place that's giving us all our GPUs also just happens to be one of the most green of all of the different data centers. So I wouldn't say it's totally on purpose, but it's like a benefit of just who we're working with.
Okay,
that's all we're very lucky. That said, I mean, we are like the MidJourney GPUs are spread across 8 different data centers and like Japan and Korea and America and Europe. And so I'm like 99% sure that all of them are green. It's possible that there's like one of them that's less green, but I'm sure it's not like the kind built next to a coal power plant like the Ethereum ones. I know they all buy offsets, whatever that means, but I'm pretty sure that most of them are like actually solar and wind and like nuclear. Yeah, I should probably ask. I'll do a little audit at some point. That'll be a fun question.
Thank you. That will be all I have to ask.
Yeah, if you're talking about offsets, yeah, offsets are kind of bullshit. So planting trees is cool. Maybe we could have like a MidJourney forest somewhere. That'd be neat. All right. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I asked you a while back about light field photography, and you said that you had been thinking about light field, but you didn't really have time. And I wasn't sure if it applies to MidJourney or if what MidJourney is going beyond that. And also, I guess, you're talking about more exploration than control. I think maybe the light field question is maybe moot if the control is not what you're aiming for.
We are going to do 3D stuff, and light fields might be a good intermediate format for some of the 3D stuff. We are not 100% sure yet. But we are going to do 3D stuff. And 3D isn't about control, it's about like manifestation. It's about like having that sort of like increasingly real manifested reality from our minds.
Okay. Cool.
So that's how we're thinking about it. But we will do some 3D stuff. I just I'll probably do something in by the end of the year that's a proof of concept. I don't know when it'll be a product, but I'd be disappointed if it wasn't something in the next year.
Right on. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hello.
How you been, David?
Good. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, I missed you last week. I had things going on. The trucking gods turned their firm attention upon me, and it was a hectic couple of days, but I'm here today. Just again, as always, kind of being the permanent newbie, just wanted to talk to you about the new user experience and what my continuing journey. Since the last time we talked, and I'm assuming you have noticed this, but maybe you haven't because you're a busy man, but I have been made a guide. So I am now one of the green name minions, and apparently I was the other green and red name minions decided that my good deeds should not go unpunished, and so they invited me to join their ranks, and I did that about a week. I did that about a week ago. So it's kind of weird, this me talking to you now, because the last times we talked, I was an outsider, and now I am part of the apparatus. I'm
Illuminati confirmed.
That's right. I'm repping the firm, and so in some sense, this phone call is coming from inside the house, if you know what I mean. So hopefully, I'll be able to make some useful comments. I didn't plan on talking about this, but all that stuff you was talking about earlier about the AIs and the people that was trying to make the super intelligent this and that. I know an awful lot of geeks that's way deep off into that stuff, and none of them seem to really understand or like human beings, and it kind of concerns me that they're out making a super intelligent AI that they think is going to fix everything.
Yeah.
So.
No.
So that was just
AI doesn't like them, right?
Right. Well, if you want to program the super intelligent to fix all the world's problems, you kind of need to understand how human beings work. And I know a lot of folks that don't really. But that's neither here nor there. I guess I'm gonna jump in. Last time we talked, I ran my mouth for about half an hour, so I'm gonna try not to do that today. But now that I am a guide, so I'm in the thick of things. I'm in the trial support channel. That's where I spend a lot of my time because I feel most comfortable around people who don't know nothing. Because then I feel like we got that in common. So I'm able to help out there. And there's two areas since I've been doing this now for a couple of weeks. Because even before I was a guide, I was in there answering questions and helping out. And I've run across. So there's two things I have noticed that people really have a lot of trouble with, and it's also hard for us to explain. And there's other questions that are difficult to answer, but that's on us kind of as the people answering the questions to formulate the best responses, right? So that's not anything we need to bother you with. But there are a couple of things which defy easy explanation and are things which I feel like could be addressed on the company side of things, particularly on the web page, or somehow, some way. And the first one is aspect ratios. That just explaining how Midge draws a picture in terms of aspect ratio and resolution. It defies being able to explain it in an engaging and useful way, you know, especially when it doesn't work like you think it would. And this is part of the new user experience too, because I just discovered this 2 days ago. That if I take, like for example, if I type in AR34 and I upscale it, I don't get a 3.4 image, I get a 4.5 image. And if I upscale it light, I get a 4.5 image. And if I use beta, I get a 7.9 image. And if I use upscale max, I get an 11:14 image. At no point do I, once I start upscaling, I don't get a 3.4 image anymore. And I did not know that. Now this is known. I understand everybody that's listening to this is going, well, how the hell did you not know that? Everybody knows that, because we've got charts and stuff that's dating back to July that I've seen. So obviously it's well known. But it doesn't behave like I would have thought. I think that's pretty common. And so when I'm trying to explain to someone, they want to know why they can't get a 16:9 image. And trying to explain that to somebody, especially if they don't speak English, and so either they or I or both of us are having to go through Google Translate to get all this together, it can be kind of a challenge. And that's one area. So I guess my question, there is a question in there. Is this kind of the intended use case? Like, are y'all happy with the way the aspect ratio works in this regard? And so going forward, there's not really any intention to change it? Or is it something that eventually you might like to get it to work more like what people think, so that when they type in, H1024 or H1080 W1920, they'll get a picture like that? Because I'm sitting in the back of a truck making dorky D&D shit on my laptop for my own amusement. It don't matter to me if I can't get a 3.4 picture, I'm gonna get a 11:14 instead. That don't matter to me. But I can imagine that there are like some of these professional artists and graphic artists and other artists that for whom that might be important. So I just was wondering what was the plan on the aspect ratios going forward.
The reason why it's kind of inconsistent is that like some of the algorithms can need the image to be like the pixels have to be divisible by 32, and some of them need the pixels to be divisible by 64, and some of them need to be pixels divisible by 256. So each of the algorithms have different rules for what exactly the image size is allowed to be. And so what we try to do is we try to like tell it to, keep the size as close as you can. And like, so hopefully nobody notices. And I honestly never really noticed because I don't like load it into Photoshop and then check it. But it is true that it will like drift from the exact thing you ask it for. So technically what we should be doing is we should be like adding in black borders or something to kind of like make it the exact right size, like invisibly, and then cropping them back out, like basically you pad it so it's exactly the size it needs to be, and then you crop it out right before it gets to them. And so like we should be kind of having like a sneaky padding and cropping algorithm in there. And if we added the sneakiness, it would definitely be fine. I think we do want to do that. We just we don't, there's like nobody, there's like an extra person we need to like program the sneaky algorithm, and we just don't have that person right now.
Well, I mean, the way it works, if our conversations, my thing is, the way it works now, it could be fine, right? But as always, the information is not being given back to the user. And you know, and you were talking earlier. I have wondered. There was one of the earliest people that you were talking to today was asking basically like a query tool, like a query instead of typing imagine prompt, type query prompt. And I think I understand enough about how what goes on in Midge's little brain to figure out like why that's not really feasible. Because like one of the things, there's a trick. If you want to know if Midge knows a particular artist, you just ask her for art by that artist. And if she knows that artist, you'll get something that looks very stylized. And if she doesn't, then you get something that looks generic. And I was testing this out, and I used artwork by Jonathan Smallberries. And there ain't no artist named Jonathan Smallberries because I just made that name up. And but she gave me pictures that had pictures of berries in it. So I didn't get the generic, I don't know who this is. I got pictures that were related to berries. Maybe not the best name I could have. So I understand that's kind of why a query tool is maybe a little, for normal prompts might be a little difficult to pull off because she may understand the words, but she may not understand, because Midge don't speak English, she just fakes it. So she may not understand the words like you understand. But with resolutions, maybe that's a hard-coded thing. So maybe there will be a way, it's some kind of tool that you could query a resolution and either get back a yes or no, yes, I can make that, no, I can't. Or maybe a pathway to how you can get that. How do you get a 16:9 image? Well, generate an image with 16:9 AR. That's going to give you 7:4. Then do it again. You're going to get 7:4. Then you get 16:9. You max upscale it. Then you get a 16:9 image. And that seems to me that's not fuzzy. That's hard coded. So I feel like you could add that. I know you have absolutely nothing else to program with respect to Midge, and so that's probably something you can take care of in an evening. But just anything that gives the information back to the users would make it a lot easier on those of us answering the questions.
Yeah, I think I think the two best things would be we could write a guide, like a few simple ones that people ask about, like 16:9, 4:3, or whatever the ones that people ask about most. We should add that. We can add that to the documentation or even to the question bot, so people have like clear guides on how to do things. But then in terms of like having a new query system, if we were going to add a query system to the bot, it's only a little bit less work than just trying to add the sneaky feature that does the padding. So
Right.
I would try to just go straight to that.
Okay.
So I would think that probably what we should do is we should add a little guiding information, like in a docs, and then we should try to add the padding at some point. I'll talk to some people about it. Like it's probably easier for the next version. Yeah. I kind of I've think about it. I think there's like a right way to do it. It's like, yeah, the current thing, the rounding thing right now, that's all my fault. Like I programmed that algorithm. And it was one of those things that I thought about for a few days, and then I sat down, I programmed it in 30 minutes. But if I just had to sit down and do it, it would have taken me 4 hours. So I should just think about the right way to do the sneaky algorithm, and then maybe I'll sit down and just do it in 30 minutes at one point. But it's has to do it in just the right way, you know?
Right. Well, just to understand that I'm not complaining about the AR system, right? That's not what I just.
No, but
anything,
right
anything that helps the users, any feedback that helps the users and helps us explain and makes it clear to the users how to get the best out of Midge. That's my focus. That's what I think.
The behavior should be what people expect, you know?
Right.
And I think that's something that we want that, whenever it's not what people expect, I think it could be better. And so that's something we definitely should fix.
All righty. Well, the second thing I was going to mention, this is the other thing that I see that just causes a tremendous amount of confusion, particularly with people who, for whom English is not their primary language. And it goes back to expectations and how people can sometimes get the wrong idea. But you were talking earlier about how you were making too much money. And I would like you to know that I have been helping with that. I have been actually making you less money because I have talked a number of people out of buying private
Good.
because they don't need it.
Yeah.
But they don't know they don't need it.
I don't think people need it. That's kind of why I agree with you. I actually don't I don't like the private thing.
Well, I think there's the number of
there are
people,
reasons to have it.
There's two people that will. There's the people that actually genuinely, honestly need it. I was talking to a few of them folks the other day. There are people that actually genuinely need it. They understand what it is. They understand why they need it. Those are the people that are coming in. They have a clear, definitive idea of how they're going to monetize their image.
Yeah.
But then you get these other people that either they just kind of have this vague notion that maybe one day I'll monetize these images and I'll figure it out, but I need the privacy. But a lot more often you get people that think, oh, I want to be able to, I don't want to be making pictures in the public channel. I want to be able to make pictures privately with the bot. And here's this thing saying private mode. So I guess I got to spend $20. And that's the thing. And I have not, because I don't need it, I have not gone through and pressed that button to pay for it to see what it looks like. So I don't know if it goes through. I know it starts off in the Discord. I don't know if it winds up on the web page, but if there's a web page stage where they got to go through, you need to write something on that thing. Say you do not, make sure you understand why you need this. Make sure you understand what you're getting. All this is going to do is make your pictures on the web page private. Ain't gonna have nothing else to do with anything. If you want to work with the bot privately, you do not need this.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're actually going to change the name soon from private mode to like stealth mode.
Paranoid mode.
Stealth mode. I like stealth mode because like it's like you kind of know how you don't need to be stealth. It's like it's like stealth mode. It's like it also sounds like something that you might have to pay for. Like stealth, that sounds expensive. Like
right.
Yeah. And then I think what we're planning on doing is like I think we're going to make a $60 a month plan, and it's going to have like 30 fast hours a month, and they'll have stealth mode, and like we'll call it the pro plan, and then we'll kill the enterprise plan. And so that's sort of the new, and then I think that's going to make it a lot easier because we can say like stealth mode for confidential for like confidential business projects or something,
right?
Like we can say it like, I think it makes a lot more sense. I think private was like the wrong word actually.
Well, that and I run into the same thing with the corporate plan. I get people buying the corporate because they just assume that if it's going to be, oh, this is the next step up from standard. This is more expensive than standard. This is the next step up. So I guess I'm gonna buy this because I want the best. And I've talked to a few people out of buying corporate too.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah.
I'm saying you're not getting. I'm doing what you said. I'm making sure you don't get too much money.
No, you're just helping people do the right decision, which is all I care about. I don't need it. But I do think that like I think we're gonna kill the enterprise plan, and we're just gonna call the new one the pro plan. And the pro plan will be $60 a month, and it'll have the stealth mode. And we'll say if you work for a company that makes more than $1 million a year and you're using this for a job, you have to buy the pro. Like, and so it'll we'll something like combine it into one thing.
Right.
And then we'll do and then anybody who wants to, and then we'll like let anybody buy a yearly plan if they want. And there'll be a big discount.
That sounds great.
That's kind of the new one. It's like discount if you buy for a year. The $600 plan is now $60, and like stuff. Yeah. Then we put the stealth mode in there. We probably just to change private to stealth, and yeah. Yeah, I don't want to call it incognito.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's probably the right. Yeah.
I think and listening to you talk earlier about how you don't want MidJourney to be associated with certain pictures. It's always useful to reflect on how OnlyFans got started, because these days, if you hear the word OnlyFans, then unless you are a very sheltered individual, you will think of porn first and foremost, and it's instructive to look at them. They didn't start off as a porn platform. That was not how they were intended to be, and they have struggled with it mightily. It's cost them a lot of infrastructure, so I think that's a fabulous idea that you don't want to be them. You don't want to end up going down that road even accidentally. I think that's great.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I don't know, no MidJourney After Dark or something.
right, I'm with you. Well,
Or
like I say, I'm still having the ball. You were talking about images that inspired you, and I just, Drew Brees. That's, I can send you some pictures. You'll be inspired. Um, I have, but you were talking earlier. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. Then I'm gonna head out. You were talking earlier about, you kind of favor vibe and artistic and over craft, but just keep in mind there's a lot of survivor bias and there's a lot of self-selection bias in the people who are using MidJourney, because the people who are there are a lot of people who are coming here to make, to craft images, not just to make cool art. And I talked to a bunch of them. I talked to I was talking to this teacher. She was from Poughkeepsie, and she came here with a specific intent of making specific images for her students for her classroom. And she's not an artist. She's not out here trying to be creative and influential and come up with all kind of weird, crazy shit. Talked to another guy night before last. He's a marketing company that specializes in restaurants, and he was trying to get me to show him how to make pictures of food. He wants to be able to. And this is one of the guys I told. He said, "Can I buy the corporate plan?" And I said, "No." He said, "Art, I want to be able to do this." And I said, "Right now, that MidJourney is not for you," because the things he wanted to be able to say, "I want to put the food here, the plate here, and the food here, and the bottle of wine here, and this." He wanted to be able to do it. So those people are out there now. I understand they may not be who you're trying to market towards, but you throw them a bone. I think that might be useful.
Yeah. I think that there's definitely almost different products at some point,
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's this like exploration one, which I think I enjoy the most. And then I think the next one that I feel like I most need to do is I need to do one that's like for artists, like people who can draw really good and who have all these physical skills. Because like I actually wish that MidJourney was a little more physical, but like
that leave me out.
And so I think those people, but like I think that there's something important for like building something for the artists specifically. And then I think after that, it's maybe like more of the movie directors. I kind of call them movie directors. Like I want this over here and this over here. I want the light here.
I agree.
And
I think that's a great analogy, because there have been times I paid an artist to draw some fan comics for me several years ago, and it had no dialogue.
Yeah,
but I still think I took credit for it.
Yeah, I do think that if we build something specifically for artists, then it will like supercharge them and they'll make stuff that's way better. Whereas like right now, like it's a little bit of a shame that like if an artist wants to use it, they can't like use a lot of their physical talents, So I think about that one a lot. I do want to do, and then like that one seems like the most. Like, I guess I'm not really thinking about it in terms of like making money, because obviously the directors have more money than the artists,
Right.
But like I feel more of a moral obligation to build the thing for the artists, because like I mean like they're like both a lot of the people who push the boundaries, and also like I it just seems like the right thing to do. It's like there's I think it'll be really cool.
Well, I've been reading the chat. You've been making a lot of friends today. You've been talking about your personal beliefs and your personal philosophy. You have made a tremendous number of fans today that may have never heard this. I personally think it's fantastic. I think you're definitely on the right track. So, for whatever value my opinion might have, I really like it, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, you can always keep telling the movie directors it's not for them for now. Maybe one day we'll do but I feel like before we do movies, we're definitely gonna do more like comic books. I'm just gonna say that, because like comic books are easier than movies because it's about telling a coherent story. Like you don't really care exactly where the stuff is, but as long as it's telling the story, God, I want to do a comic book mode. I think that's gonna be really cool. Like
that would be neat for me, because I grew up reading the damn thing.
You basically want to say like, I want this character, like you anchor it with a character, you anchor it with a style, and then you're kind of just telling about like the scenes and the stories, and it's giving you like panels that are matching, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like that's gonna be really cool. I think that's the movie director one where I want this just right here. I don't know. It's like something we should make, but it's like it's definitely lower on the list.
Right.
those
Well,
guys
like
come out on
the
our list.
teacher from Poughkeepsie is kind of halfway in between. So I guess that was more my, like, I understand you don't want to be this dude who's marketing who wants to be able to make food posters, but that the young lady I was talking to from Poughkeepsie, she's, she is kind of in between. And, she's not the kind of person who's just coming here to, now once she got started, she did have a ball exploring. She did.
Yeah.
But
what was she trying to do?
She's a preschool teacher, and she just wanted to make some cool images, I guess, dogs and cats, and in that childish style that you might see in a preschool wall. That's kind of what she just wanted to make some neat images for her class.
That's sweet.
So that's I thought that was kind of cool.
That's cool. But she was but she couldn't get it quite to be the style that she wanted.
She was having trouble. She was asking for some of the things that, as we know, midgets not do particularly well, like hands.
Oh.
And same thing I ran into when I first started. So we had to have a conversation about what Midge does real well and what she doesn't do particularly well at all. And so, but that's just the educational thing. I don't mind doing that. Happy to help. So anyhow, I told you I wasn't going to sit here run my mouth for half an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and leave, let somebody else take over. Great talking to you as always. I've really enjoyed listening to you today, so it was really good.
Thank you. I try to not go off on the rants, but sometimes people come here for the rants, so we may just need people to push me into rants sometimes.
But it was a quality rant, so take heart. You have a great day, man.
You too.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, David. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm quite new to MidJourney, and I had two burning questions. One of which I answered on your terms of service, so that's cool. Second one is I am, and this actually links in directly with what yourself and Afterburner were just talking about there. So I use MidJourney. I'm very new to it, but I'm using it to generate reference material for my paintings. And one of the things that struck me this evening when I generated an image using MidJourney, it's a gorgeous image, beautiful image, but compositional rules. So rules of third, golden ratio, leading lines, etc. Do you think there's any plan to implement compositional rules, like interactable compositional rules for people who want them? I suppose the way I would imagine it is, a compositional rule almost having a Bezier handle where you could tweak it just a little.
We're thinking of doing anchors where you could be like, I want like this composition, and then you show it a picture. That's what we've been thinking of doing. Or making it better at vocabulary so it like knows the words for some of the compositions. Those have been the two main areas that we've been thinking about.
Oh, very good. Well, that's me. Thank you very much.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
I'm back. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, David. Okay, I have a couple of questions for you. Let's just get right into it. Okay, first question, fun. What career advice do you have for people who would like to transition into this space or are just beginning their careers?
What is this space?
AI, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, learn to program Python. That's gonna help. Definitely just like read a lot, make a lot of things. Sometimes the only way to really learn is to make stuff. You can't it's got so hard because like on one side, if you never read anything, there's a lot of stuff you don't learn that's important. But if you never make anything, there's a lot of stuff you don't learn that you can only learn by making things, right? So you really have to both make a lot of things and read a lot of things. And if you do both of those things, you'll be good.
That goes for more than just programming, I think. I think that goes for almost any profession.
Yeah, I mean, programming is not really different than anything else.
Right.
It's actually easier in a lot of ways because like computers are kind of made for programming in a lot of ways. Like computers are how people program things for computers. So it's like you're using a hammer made for making hammers. It's like very cyclical, you know?
Right.
It's kind of, yeah, it's like, but like it's like, yeah, like there are very few crafts where like the tool is made for making those tools. That, you know, it's like it's sort of, yes, intense.
That's very true. You're kind of blowing my
Also,
mind a little bit of that.
Also, like
Huh.
another thing that people misunderstand with computers is that like they'll be like, David, every time I need to figure something out, I have to like Google it, and it seems arbitrary. And it's like, yeah, everybody Googles it, and everything is arbitrary. And you just kind of have to let go of that. And once you do, like, it's fine.
I think that goes with anything technology related, honestly. Like, I've been solidly in my own career for many years now, and I still Google all the time. Like, just anything technical. So, yeah, that's funny. Okay. There are actually 2 questions about this next one. I'm going to kind of consolidate them into one question. But it is about the fact that MidJourney community has really grown to a lot of people. And so the questions are around like, how are you thinking of community? How are you thinking of scaling this as MidJourney grows even larger? What are your thoughts? What are your comments?
Some things are definitely going to go to the website.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things will be a lot easier on the website. It's one reason why we're trying to do a lot of really big features there. And then some of those things we're going to bring back here. I think we're going to basically push a lot of the social innovation to the web because we can actually, it's easier to we can't like easily build a new user interface inside of Discord. But then I think as something is looking really good on the web, then we can potentially have it we can bring it back into Discord too. So it'll be a bit of a website goes forward, Discord catches up, website goes forward, Discord catches up. I think that's a big thing. I mean, right now there's no social stuff on the website really, except for the front page. I hope everybody does enjoy that. I think the front page is kind of a great example of like where the website really is, like where there's no way to do that in Discord, like this beautiful big gallery, you know, of voting and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Like I was thinking of making more forums, but people seemed split on whether they wanted more forums, so I didn't add any. I'll probably check again every week, and when people decide they want more forums, we'll add more of those. I thought about like maybe we should change the channels up at some point, but like more show and tell channels maybe, and fewer creation channels. But I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of ideas and discussion around that, I think.
Yeah, I think we're potentially getting to the point where we should restructure some things, but I don't necessarily know what to restructure. And so people definitely throw that into feedback or have all the guys and, you know, mods talk about that. But I think there's some, yeah, we're breaking new ground here. So like at this point, this Discord server is bigger than the Roblox, Minecraft, and Fortnite servers combined. So it's like there's never been a server this big on Discord. No one really knows how to make Discord good at this size. So definitely, I'm sure like not just us, but like literally Discord themselves would love to hear what people think about how to make a server this big good.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to hear it too. There's been like a lot of talk with the moderators recently about like how we can, how do I word this? Like in discussion channels, like sometimes it gets very heated. And so it's like, okay, there's been a lot of discussion of like, what should we moderate and how should we moderate it? And like, how can we give people like the ability to have these passionate discussions without it turning negative, right? And so there's been a lot, it's been very much thought about a lot recently behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Everybody else's knowledge.
Hopefully we'll people often say how good it is, so I think we're doing a great job. But we can obviously like the extent we can make it better.
Yeah, love that.
Well, we could create a channel called Battle. What was it called? Battle Dome? Was it Battle Thunderdome? And whenever anybody starts to argue, we say take it to Thunderdome. And then we just maybe we just need to like we have an argument channel called we just throw anybody arguments they have to go to Thunderdome.
I actually love that so much.
It could get really toxic in there, so I'm a little scared, but it's an interesting idea.
It would be an interesting experiment, I think, because it's
Oh, I know
almost
what you do. You make it's Thunderdome, and then the only people who can actually post in there are people the people who can go in there are people who've been given the Thunderdome role. And so basically, it's like basically you have them take it into another chat where they can say whatever the fuck they want, and nobody else has to watch.
Wait, but what if it was like we could give them people a role and then they couldn't post anywhere else except in there for like a certain amount of time? Wow, this is we shouldn't.
Nah. But
Okay,
just
sorry. That was
take it to Thunderdome. Take it to the Thunderdome. I don't know if anybody has seen that movie. It's a movie, Escape from Thunderdome, and it was like this sort of post-apocalyptic Mad Max movie. I think maybe it was Mad Max. Was it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, it was Mad Max Escape from Thunderdome, and so like there's this big dome, and people would fight in it, and everyone go, 2 men enter, 1 man leave. 2 men enter, 1 man leave. It was like the chant. So, oh, that'd be intense. So Thunderdome, and then you have to ban one of the people who loses now. That would be intense. Fuck. Yeah. Or you just time them out for whoever loses gets timed out for a day. No, I don't know. But I don't know. There's definitely we can always have something wacky. This is something whenever anything is unresolvable, I will try to solve it with wackiness. At one point, there were all these NFT people in here, and they're like, I want to do NFTs, I want to do NFTs, I want to do NFTs. And I'm like, guys, if you keep bothering me about NFTs, I'm going to put furries in charge. And they're like, oh no, don't put the furries in charge. I'm like, you're going to have to present your NFTs to the furries, and furries will judge you. And they'll be like, please, no, anything but that. Please. And I go, just stop bothering about NFTs. They go, okay, fine. Just don't make the furries, don't make us go to the furries. Because I don't know if anybody knows this, but furries are the natural enemy of crypto and vice versa. So
That's really funny.
yeah. Whenever I needed to calm the NFT people, then I said I'm going to bring the furries in. Don't make me bring the furries in.
David, I have real tears going down my face right now. Oh my god, that is really funny.
Yeah.
All right,
I'd like to think that we're a furry. I think that we're definitely a more furry-friendly community than we're a crypto-friendly community, but I'd like to think that we're friendly in general.
We have multiple furries on our mod guide team.
Yeah.
FYI, but they're nice. I shouldn't have said that part. But
no, furries are
right.
great. Yeah.
What's that?
Furries are great. Just to set the record straight, I am not a furry, but furries are great.
They're generally very nice.
I mean, if I had a fursona, it would definitely be a cat, but I don't really identify with being a cat, you know?
What color cat?
I don't know. I haven't really thought that hard about it, but I'm obviously more of a cat than I'm a dog, but yeah.
I'd have to think about this. I feel like you could be an orange cat. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it on that note because that was a really, really good note, and the next question I had was not that fun, so great. Bye.
Okay. All right, we'll probably wrap it up in another 10 minutes. I did not eat enough food today, so I have to go eat food soon.
Hi.
Hello.
I'd like to start off by thanking you so much for creating this space and working with people to create this AI.
Of course, thank you.
I'm
Thank
one
you
of
for
those
inviting
people
me.
Sorry, I'm one of those people who got into this in order to create art that embodied my envisioning, because I can create amazing art in my mind, but I have zero practical skill. And so this has helped a lot. So my questions are, one, what mainly causes the weird body horrors, like multiple limbs in wrong places, or in my case, always having human females have elongated faces with one bug eye?
Well, I don't know if you've tried using have you tried using a test and test P model?
Yeah, I stick with those pretty
Yeah,
much.
I mean, in general, it's getting better over time. I would say that the systems aren't great at counting right now. And so if something involves having to count more than 2, it's not great. So it's just not great at counting. So I think that fingers is you have to get the number right. You can't have 4, you can't have 6. You know? And so it's not great it's not always great symmetry. It's hard to know when it should be symmetric versus when it should be. So getting making sure the retinas are perfectly round, and making sure the left eye is exactly the same as the right eye. Right eye, it doesn't always work. Yeah, you can use the word like symmetry, of course, and that
Yeah.
can help. But
I've been
it's
able to use Photoshop to correct most of the stuff, but occasionally I get like Dementor faces. It's weird.
yeah, that's a bit of a chaotic thing. Try your luck, but yeah, I personally would just use Photoshop for things. Yeah, I don't. There's a lot of people who like will do anything to avoid booting up Photoshop, but I just boot up Photoshop, fix the thing, and go.
Yeah. And I guess my second question now is, uh, what do you think about introducing like an image breeding system where you take two variations of an image and say you like the outfit on one and the face on the other, and so you just kind of have them produce from those two more images instead of re-rolling?
It's hard to specify exactly, like, I want the face of this and the body of this.
Well, yeah, I understand that would be very hard, but like just in general, taking the two images and combining them into two other images instead of having to re-roll a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, we are thinking of having more tools to combine things. So I think we will do that. Exactly what and when, I'm not sure. Because it's more of a product question. Because like, how do you? We're entering the point where it's really challenging to put more features into Discord. And then we can put more features onto the website, though it requires that the image generation is up there for everybody first, which we're still working towards. But even on the image generation on the website, like, I think there's already sometimes too many features. So I think we're trying to figure out how do we add functionality without just making it like a mess. I think that's a big thing we haven't totally figured out yet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've definitely experienced that when trying to make UIs and such.
Yeah,
I could not imagine trying to put that into an application of something of this scale.
Yeah, I think we're trying to figure it out. I think we'll figure it out, but it's something that we're definitely I think that like yeah, something like a mix table but for images, like that's cool. That sounds fucking cool. I think the first thing we make will be more of like it'll be more like the current thing but better. But it won't be like totally unrecognizably different. Whereas like mixed table for images is kind of like just a totally new thing, We're gonna go towards that. We're gonna build some crazy shit, but a lot of the craziest, basically, for new functionality, we're gonna be moving a lot to the web, because it's hard to fit more in, and then the web stuff will be more similar at first, and then it will drift and become really alien over time. But it might take a few months.
Nice.
And like maybe eventually, like we literally are selling mix tables and new types of weird hardware for image making.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the 3D whenever that comes around, because then I'll be able to like make my video game characters or something like that.
Yeah. Any particular video game? What are you thinking?
I've actually come up with an entire series pretty much. I just need to gain the practical skills to build the game itself. And so creating a 3D model and animating and all that stuff is going to take a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I think eventually we're gonna have stuff that does a lot of that. That might take a little longer. Like animations. Like animations are gonna take longer than like the first thing you do is you do 3D, and then you start to get them skeletons, and then you start to do animations, and you kind of slowly build it out, But we're gonna build a 3D pipeline. It's gonna be fucking cool.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing that help out others like me. Because I know it's probably not going to arrive in time for me, but for others it's going to be great, and I'm going to be rallying behind you guys all the way.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, I thought I was going to be a few later. Thank you very much for taking my call. I mean, this has been like honestly a TED talk for me. You guys are, I mean, your mind is very interesting and obviously brilliant. So thank you very much for the work your team's doing. And just wanted to say I'm a noob to this. I'm just like a creative person, but I mean, it's like blowing my mind, like more interesting than even playing a video game. To the last callers, I just had a quick question, like, how far out do you think you guys are from like 3D building up a prompt like this?
Sorry, say again. How far are we from what?
From like building something out that would be like this, but for 3D images.
We're gonna like it pretty quick, pretty soon. It's like it's actually not very different. Like I actually was gonna start with 3D originally, with MidJourney, but then I kind of realized that that a lot of it was going to be the same with 2D and 3D, and that like I should start with 2D first and then just like flip it to 3D later. And so I think it will not be that far out, but I don't think it's like the most important thing for us to be working on at this exact week, basically. So we're kind of have it planned out. We are building all the capacity to do it, but we haven't like flipped the switch yet onto like, okay, train the 3D version. But we could do it like pretty fast at this point.
Wow, that's okay. That's incredible. Would it be kind of like similar where you would be able to look around an image, kind of rotate around it like that?
We'd probably start off with just like some parallax. You know, you can move the camera around a little bit, but not necessarily rotate it 360. You probably do something where it's like it's like 3D, but it's like a window. You're like looking into the world. And then we'd probably do a version after that that's more of like a where you rotate around. It's like more like a 360, or you can just keep moving, like a video game.
That's incredible. Okay. The question I actually put into the prompt, I was just curious how you guys, like you and your team, go about like building new versions, how long that takes you guys, like what that dynamic is. Just this is all super interesting to me, so I'm kind of curious how it works on the back end for you guys.
I mean, we have like an idea on how to do something, and then we try it. And then it works or it doesn't, and you know, sometimes it takes a few tries, and hopefully eventually it works. And so it's like, okay, we're gonna train a model. Okay, it's gonna take us 3 days to set it up. Okay, it's taking 3 days to train. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, it's gonna take 2 days to fix it. Now I'll do another 3 days to train it. Okay, now it broke. Let's like restart it. Okay, it broke again. Let's fix a bug. Okay, 3 more days. And so it's kind of like this that's kind of like a story of a model. And then sometimes
how does that communication work? Is it a bunch of people like just through like online messaging? Are you guys in like doing Discord chats and stuff? Just curious like how all that works for you guys.
We're mostly just talking on Discord, and then we just talk every day and kind of set, you know, and people talk about what's happening, and then we kind of just go back and forth, and it's very asynchronous and it's very remote. We're all remote.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you so much, by the way. Just one last thing. I just want to say your corporate espionage stories are, while they're a little vague, because I know you have to be that way. That's super interesting. Reminds me of like the Darknet Diaries podcast. And just wanted to thank you for everything you've said today. It's been incredibly interesting.
I think there was a time where we like decided that we were tired of it, so we hired a security guard, and then the security guard like got in a fight with the security company, and then he broke back into the building. So it was like one of those things where it's like, man, you can't even hire a security guard without having a security problem, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the Darknet Diaries. I just got into that like a few weeks ago, and I was like just mind blown. I was like, wow. So that stuff probably happens to, I mean, even, you know, startup companies. I mean, it's insane.
Oh yeah. I mean, it gets weirder as you get like into governmental stuff. Like the government can like spend like $20 million to break into a building. You know what I mean? So it's like, because it's not really, it's like
we all voted for that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do something really strange. Like they'll do really strange things. And like, I love the stories of like, oh yeah, you password protected your phone. Well, your data is still in the RAM. So we can like dip your phone in liquid nitrogen, rip the RAM off and put it onto another chip before the electrons like leak out. And we can just yank all of your data out of the memory chip, like while it's still in liquid nitrogen. Like they do crazy shit, you know?
That is insane.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you, man. I mean,
it's like not what's practical. It's like what physics allows, you know? And so it gets really, I don't know, man. It gets weird. It's kind of cool. Like I used to kind of
transport
like,
your image somehow to another place eventually.
yeah, I kind of think it's really interesting. I used to be like really into like all of these sort of like military and spy stories, not because like I like war, but like because it's just like one of these rare situations where it's like, okay, we don't care how much money it takes. How do we do it? And then it's always something really weird, you know?
Yeah. Well, you had to personally deal with it then, man.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like my favorite, like there's, I think the CIA, they used to have this device that like in the 60s, and it was like a little ultrasound thing that could, and then a little rod that would emit ultrasound, and they could just stick it into a keyhole, and it would just measure the height of all the pins inside the lock, and then they would just get the height of all the pins, and then just make a key on the spot, and then the key is just just a bunch of heights. So you just you put the little ultrasound thing, it tells you the heights of all the pins, and you pull it out, and then you make a key on the spot, and you open the door. You have a key now. They don't even have to pick the lock. So that's the stuff they did in the '60s. It's so cool. I don't know.
You're like, they've come farther from there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish to be honest, it's probably more boring now because nowadays it's all just viruses and it's all just computer viruses and stuff. But the liquid nitrogen was a cool one. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Very interesting. No, I just want to, thank you so much for your mind and just explaining things to people and building a community. This has been awesome. I just want to say my last thing, man. I was thinking about a game show where you guys would host it, like a MidJourney game show where you would have people new users or, I mean, even experienced users, that's fine. But you guys could do a weekly game show with someone from the team and do guess that prompt. Because I think doing the reverse would be really cool with your fans.
Oh yeah, we thought about making a prompt game where you make if you're warmer or colder, and we've been kind of holding off doing game show things. I kind of wish I could just get someone to just do game show stuff with it.
Just you guys, because you guys kind of have a good understanding of how images are built. So if you did maybe a few people from the team on a Friday or whatever, kind of did something like that just with the community, just kind of people guessing prompts, and you guys would have a little more insight, obviously, on the back end. So I was just thinking that would be kind of cool.
I feel if we were gonna do a game show, we go full game show, right? Where there's where there's what's his name, the Jeopardy guy.
Heck yeah, Trebek.
Yeah, Trebek, Alex Trebek. Yeah, we'll bring him back.
Rated Trebek coming back for MidJourney.
We're bringing back Trebek, and it would be and then people have to have buzzers, they show a picture and everyone buzzes one at a time, and then we I feel we'd have to go full game show, not
right. You have to, yeah. Absolutely. Thank you again. Thank you so much again.
No problem. Okay. That might be it for the day. It's at 4. This has been 4 hours of Q&A. I'm very happy that I'm healthy enough again to do 4 hours straight. It's probably physical limit, I think. But it's just because I just want to do it. I wish I would do 12 hours if I was if I was physically capable. But yeah. And so I think that'll be it for the day. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for being a part of the community. We're going to do these every week on Wednesday at noon. I love to try to do one at an alternate time for people at different time zones. I haven't figured out how to do that yet. We'll keep doing them. Let's see, anything else? Nope, I just hope that everybody's having fun, and thank you again for being a part of MidJourney. Have a nice day.